Jim, go ahead, sir.
Okay, we'll call this meeting to order. Today is Friday, December 6th, 2024. This is the regular quarterly meeting of the Nevada Board of Agriculture Board. Our first item is Pledge of Allegiance. If you'll rise to join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And now we will have a moment of silence, silent reflection. Thank you. Sierra, would you provide us with the reminders for the virtual attendees?
If you are joining us online via Zoom, all participants have been muted upon entry. Please keep your microphone on mute and use the raise your hand feature until you are called to speak. To raise your hand, you can click on the react button and click raise hand, or go to the participants list, find your name and click raise hand from there. Once called upon, you can click on the unmute button in the bottom left of your screen. If you're joining us via phone, please press *9 to raise your hand if you have a question or comment, and *6 to unmute yourself when called upon.
Okay, thank you. And so our next item is roll call in the Elko office. Who are our attendees? We're not hearing you, Elko.
Mr. Chairman, I know board member Harris.
There you go.
Pete Paris with the Nevada Department of Ag Sheep Representative. There's two
Okay,
more.
thank you, Pete.
Lily Wolf, rancher.
Jennifer Garrett, rancher.
Scotty Vega, Program Officer for the Department of Ag in Elko.
Okay, thank you. We'll move to the Sparks office attendees.
Richard Yan from the Attorney General's office. Frank Shank, board member.
David Ruff, board member.
Justin Johnson, board member.
Ian Knight, agriculture police.
Brittany Malley, Deputy Administrator, Food and Nutrition.
Will Dawson, deputy administrator, animal industry.
Sierra Russell, Public Information Officer.
Liz Smith, a board deputy director.
Okay. So that covers Sparks. We'll move on to Las Vegas office attendees.
Raymond Saliga, Deputy Administrator, Division of Plant Health and Compliance.
Megan Brown, Administrator, Plant Health and Compliance.
Chad Sustanovich, administrator, animal industries.
Kathy Balkin, Administrator, Administrative Services.
Hank Combs on the board, Jill Ag.
Tom Baker, board member.
Doug Ferris, deputy director, Department of Agriculture.
Dr. JJ Goykachi, interim state veterinarian director.
Jim Snyder, row crop representative from Lyon County.
Dave Kuhn, board member, dairy industry.
Heather Lackery, representing pest control for Douglas County.
Brooke Neubauer, Board Member, representing the Supplemental Food.
Mackenzie Campbell, board member, representing petroleum.
Debbie Gilmore, Board Member, representing Specialty Crops.
Bill Stajewski, Administrator, Measurement Standards.
Patricia Honey, Administrator, Division of Food and Nutrition.
Melanie Sanchez, Public Information Officer.
Okay, thank you. So we'll move on to public comment. Sarah, would you?
You see if Barton is on, chance for Kirby, he was going to call in, I don't know if he did.
Oh, Marlon, are you on virtually? Board member Barnum Higby?
I did not
Not
see.
yet. Okay, Sarah, would you remind us of the rules for public comment?
Public comment, there's 3 minutes for public comment. Would you like me to read the public comment summaries that have been received prior to this date?
Yeah, a summary?
Perfect. So as of 8 a.m. today, December 6th, 2024, the Nevada Department of Agriculture has received 95 public comments related to the repair of fencing in the Virginia Range around Washoe Lake. 82 were in opposition of the fencing, citing the Virginia Range feral and stray horses would no longer have access to Washoe Lake as a water source. Concerns of horses being sent to slaughter. Horses are a driver of tourism and tourists would no longer be able to see them along the lake. Horses are more likely to get hit by cars being fenced into the Virginia Range. The horses keep down invasive weeds and other vegetation that act as biofuels. The well-being of other animals that may encounter the fence. Fencing is needed more in South Reno and should be prioritized there first. Concern about maintenance and upkeep of the fence and where funds for this will come from. Concerns about pushing the horses out from their home and requests to make Washoe Lake State Park a horse park, building a bridge between the Virginia Range and the park. 9 of these comments were in support of the fencing, citing environmental concerns, public safety concerns of horses in neighborhoods and on roadways, safety of the horses, protection of natural resources, wildlife management areas, and protected habitats. 2 public comments also address the population management of the Virginia Range feral and stray horses, noting current population levels violate the Virginia Range Stray Horse Management Program, and that the horses are ruining feed and water quality. 2 public comments stated that they were in opposition, but did not state what they were in opposition of. All of these public comments that have been submitted to the NDA can be viewed on the NDA website at agri.nv.gov after today's meeting. Would you like me to open it up for public comment here in this office?
Yes, we're ready for public comment.
Okay, we will now open it up to public comment here in the Sparks office. As a reminder, you have 3 minutes before we must move on to the next comment. I will raise my hand when you have 30 seconds remaining, and the alarm will sound at the 3 minutes, indicating we must move on to the next comment. That, I have 1 comment in writing here from Louise Martin. Louise, are you in the room with us today?
Yes, I'm right here.
Would you like to make your comment yourself?
Would I like to publicly speak? No, but I'm gonna do it. Louise Martin. I'm a Reno resident, been in Nevada since Kinsky Lane was a dirt road. I'm in opposition to the NDA fencing project, which will block the historic Virginia Range Mustangs of access to known water sources, including Washoe Lake, Steamboat Creek, and various springs. NDA's 23-mile-long fence will block hundreds of Virginia Range Mustangs and other wildlife from access to water on a large portion of the western side of the Virginia Range, which will be catastrophic. The fence extends 23 miles. In addition to inhumane prevention of access to water for the Virginia Range horses and wildlife, the fencing project will potentially endanger wildlife and humans in other ways. Wildlife can and will get entangled in barbed wire. Hikers can no longer easily access the open range and will have to climb over barbed wire unless they can find a gate. There will be a potential for ATV collisions at the fence line, which is 23 miles of fencing on the open range. An increased risk of wildfire in the 23 miles of fenced off land that was regularly grazed by Virginia Range horses, which will cause an increased risk to humans and animals. Additionally, the maintenance of 23 miles of fencing is extremely difficult, if not impossible. Most certainly, installed gates will not be closed, which defeats the purpose. Any cattle guards installed on dirt roads will fill up with dirt and gravel in a short time. How does the NDA plan to maintain a fence line that long? How will NDA monitor gates daily to assure they're not left open? Will NDA use this fencing project as an excuse to remove Virginia range horses when humans leave gates open or the fence line is in disrepair? The NDA fencing project is a disastrous plan which will with probable dangerous consequences for Virginia range horses and other wildlife. The motivations of the Nevada Department of Agriculture regarding this 23-mile fence line are questionable. Eventually, I fear the real motivation for this illogical fencing project will be used as an excuse for mass removals of the historic Virginia range horses, who are cherished by the majority of Northern Nevada citizens. Also, I want to add that it's not a good use of funds, government funds.
Please state your name and organization for the record.
I'm Anne-Marie Ballstrich. I'm just a resident of Carson City. I would like to voice my opposition to fencing the wild horses from accessing Washoe Lake. I drive to UNR 4 times a day, and the highlight of my drive is seeing the wild horses congregate near the lake. I also see many cars pulled off to the side with people stopping to photograph all the various colors and sizes of the families. I have been asked by several people visiting UNR where the best place to see wild horses is, and I always point them in the direction of Washoe Lake area. It is, after all, on the corridor from Reno Airport straight to our capital. Our state derives so much of its income from tourism, and to exclude the horses from being part would be foolish. Just yesterday, I had a woman say to me that the best part of Nevada is the wild horses. Please listen to the majority of the residents who feel this way. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, members of the commission. My name's Naomi Dewar. I'm a Reno City Councilwoman, and I've been representing South Reno for a decade. During that time, I've learned that wild horses are very important to my constituents and that many moved to the area because of and not despite the wild horses. Over the years, we've come up with many approaches to help keep the wild horses safe as well as our residents safe and to avoid vehicle collisions. Finally, a year ago, we came up with a plan and began a 10-mile fencing project going from Mira Loma down across to Toll Road and over to South Virginia. I wanted to give the commissioners and the residents an update on our project. It's a $1.2 million project. About half of the funds are coming from the federal ARPA funds and about half from general fund and contributions from people like myself, other council members, nonprofits, and developers. Our other partners include NDOT, who is helping us along Geiger Grade with a crossing, a horse crossing, as well as fencing, and the county, Washoe County. We're about half done. Soon we'll be starting our work along Geiger Grade. And just as we need to divert vehicles there, we also will need to divert horses. I thought I'd preview some of our issues and requests to the Department of Agriculture, and I'll be filing this up with a letter, hopefully next week. Again, our goal is to live with the horses, not eradicate the horses. We would request that the department restore diversionary feeding, which could have begun on October 1st and has not yet begun in our part of the range. It's incredibly important. It's more effective than gathering up horses, removing them off the range, or relocating them on the range. We need that diversionary feeding in place to be able to effectively install the fence. We'd like to see the Wild Horse Connection freed up from moving these horses. We really need their help in monitoring the range and keeping people safe. We learned that during this process of the fence that it's essential to protect all animals on the range, and water is key to that. Therefore, as developers have blocked water along Steamboat Creek, we have opened up other water sources on the City of Reno property. And we would like to see the Department of Agriculture do the same with your fencing project. We recommend that you do that and you not block horses and other animals critically from Washoe Lake. Photographing wildlife at Washoe Lake is a key element of tourism in the Reno-Sparks area. In addition to significantly impacting animal life, fencing off Washoe will have a significant impact on our tourism industry. I thank you for listening to my comments today. I will put them in writing, and I'm very much looking forward to the continuing partnership with the Nevada Department of Agriculture. We can do better together. Thank you.
Jim DeChambeau, lifelong Nevada resident, lifelong horse owner. I love wild horses. I love the state of Nevada more. We need this fencing. We need to keep these horses off the roadways. We need to keep from having horses destroy vehicles and vehicle collisions. We have too many horses on the Virginia range. We know what the appropriate number should be. We know there's too many. We know they need to be removed. We know they need to be kept off of Washoe Lake. They have destroyed the bird nesting area, mainly permanently. And that is a travesty that people can't even go out there. This state needs to be protected before it's completely destroyed by wild horses. There is no feed on the Virginia range. There hasn't been for 20 or 30 years. I've lived here my whole life. I've driven to Carson City and Reno. You never used to see horse versus vehicle collisions on 95 or 50. Now you do all the time. It's only a matter of time before people are killed in these collisions. I believe there was one 2 years ago on Geiger Grade. And people that think these horses should be let run free are delusional. These horses do not belong on there. In 1999 and 2000, the Virginia range was declared free of wild horses. And the appropriate numbers at that time, because the range was so damaged, was decided to be between 100 and 300 horses. They came up with a compromise with Wild Horse Connection, that if Wild Horse Connection would keep the numbers at 550, they would go with that. Wild Horse Connection has not upheld any part of their agreement. The fences along USA Parkway, the only people that have keys to the gate are Wild Horse Connection. The Department of Agriculture does not even have keys to go in there and check on those horses. And we're letting the state down. We're failing. And we're going to lose the whole state. There are no deer on the Virginia range. Deer tags statewide have been cut 29% because of horses. There are no deer on the Virginia range. The sheep are in danger of being gone. There's nothing left there but horses. And we need to do better. Thank you.
Hi, my name's Terry Farley, and I'm a local resident and wild horse researcher. I write about wild horses. And first thing I'd like to say is, have you ever been in the place where wild horses have recently been rounded up? Bird song is absent. It's there before, it is not there afterwards. What happens is it just totally disrupts the environment that's been established over, now it depends on where you are, but decades at least. So that's not what I want to talk about, but I just had to make that point because it happens. It disturbs all the wildlife. And although this is not a roundup, it's a fence out and water is at the center of it. If you fence any animal, including us, away from water, if you deprive them of water, they're going to go
in search of it. Sadly, they don't have maps. They don't know that the water is going to be in Mound House and how to get there. They don't know that they shouldn't be crossing the freeways. They have an instinct to avoid that noise, but it looks to me, if I were a skeptical human being, or even cynical, it looks like this is creating a problem so that there will be one to solve with eradicating the wild horses in the area of Washoe Lake. At this point, there is no problem. Why are we doing this? Why are we wasting the money? Why are we blocking tourists? And you know what? Another thing is there are deer out there.
Yeah.
They're in my yard. They're all over the place. So just a PS to everything that's been said so far. Let's look at this more carefully. Let's look at the reasoning behind it. And let's see what the public has to say. Thank you.
Tina Broderick, resident of Reno, Nevada. There are two consequences of the decision to fence horses out of Washoe Lake. One is the threat of wildfire in the Washoe Lake area that will potentially spread to residential homes. The animals help to create a defensible space by their foraging around Washoe Lake. A wildfire break helps to reduce the threat of devastating wildfire. Just this summer, the Davis fire was threatening not only Washoe, but the Virginia City Highlands. If you remember, there was an evacuation notice for the Davis fire. Thanks to the horses grazing on the hillsides, the fire did not continue east. They are free lawnmowers. No need to import goats. Another consequence would be missing an opportunity for tourism and a revenue stream for the city of Reno and the state of Nevada. I personally escorted 136 people in 2024 from the state of California, Washington, Florida, Texas, Tennessee, New York, Maryland, Pennsylvania, Illinois, Montana, Wyoming, Arizona, and Israel. I might add there are wild horses in Montana and Wyoming. However, the people chose to come to Reno, Nevada and spend their money here, staying here, because the horses are accessible at Washoe Lake. In 2023, 127 people from all the above states, including Minnesota, Wisconsin, Ohio, Montreal, Canada, and Vancouver, British Columbia. In 2022, 185 people came from all the above states, including the country of Sweden. These people traveled and spent money on lodging, food, and other entertainment. Prior to COVID, people came from Greenland, Iceland, Germany, all across Europe, Brazil, Chile, Mexico, and so on. They did not come for gambling. They came here exclusively and simply to see wild horses. By eliminating water sources and forage for wild horses, the state is shooting themselves in the foot and potentially creating dangerous consequences. Work with the nonprofits groups to create opportunities that will benefit the safety of the public and an enhanced revenue stream for the state. Thank you.
Anyone else in the room?
My name is Marty Wright.
That's pretty good.
Excuse me?
That microphone's for that news station.
Yeah, you can just set it down.
I think
Glad to hear you. My name is Marty Wright, and I have a little Facebook photography page called Wild Horses Carry Me Away. And I have, anywhere between 10 and 15,000 followers on that page. And I've just built it in the last few years since I came out here from Texas because the wild horses were here. And I can't tell you how many people that have come out to take photographs with me of the wild horses. And like Tina, I will take a lot of them out to Washoe Lake, and a lot of them go out in the hills, and a lot of them go down to the Fish Springs area. But we have people that come from, I have people that come from all over the world. I've had Germany, United Kingdom, I've had Switzerland, and then a lot of people from the United States have come out. And they spend money, they stay in hotels, they eat food at restaurants. And it's a beautiful thing to watch someone see something that they cannot see anywhere else. I mean, there are other areas that I've driven out to as a wild horse photographer and a wildlife photographer, other states that I've gone to, and there's no place like here. We have a treasure. We have a unique opportunity to develop that treasure with our tourism dollars. And our tourism department in Nevada has paid big bucks for some brochures and for us to have a video out there. And we've done it really well with it. So the Department of Agriculture, I don't know what has happened in the last few months or year, but for a while it seemed like everything was running smoothly. Yeah, we had some problems with horses getting out on Highway 50. Highway 50 used to be a 2-lane little quiet road going from Carson City when USA Parkway wasn't there. So we've addressed that. There's cattle guards now, there's fencing. We don't lose as many horses on the road. It's a question of work with us. Work with those of us who love the wild horses and see the value in them and want them to stay put. In the Washoe Lake area, maybe they need thinning out. I'm not in favor of that, but maybe they do. But for the most part, people come and love them. They sit up on the bird watch and watch them, and there's plenty of feed on them. I'm on the range all over the place. There's plenty of feed on the range for the horses and the deer, and I see horses and deer grazing together on a regular basis. And occasionally, one of those goats, bighorns. Thank you.
Melinda Blackwell. I live in Washoe Valley. My frontage is the Scripps Wildlife Sanctuary. And as long as I've lived there, been over 20 years, the wild horses have grown through. I run an organization by where I work with our at-risk youth. And I take them out and introduce them to the wildlife. And the wild horses have changed lives. Just their viewing the wild horses. I've had gangsters in tears. So they're healing a part of community that is often neglected. Homeless youth, foster kids, incarcerated youth. I would hate to have them gone for my own personal reasons too, because they're kind of in my yard. I consider that my yard. There are too many, I believe, out there now. And what I've noticed over the last few years is when on the south end of the lake, they have added more fencing. So the horses used to come down the north end of the lake, down a main trail where now there's development and their pathways have been blocked. They find a way down, they enter into Washoe Valley, and there's no way out. They used to wander through. Of course, there's 2 road crossings now we're talking about. People drive too fast. There are no warning signs. There used to be flashing signs. Those are gone. I think this can be a win-win situation for us. We can have the wild horses. We can put up some more flashing lights, open some fences again on that south end so they can go all the way through. Horses wander. They don't want to be in one place forever. They like to wander through, and they've had a route for eons up into the hills, back around and into Washoe Valley, wandering through. So I think it could be a win-win situation for ranchers, for those of us who care about the land. We don't want to see it destroyed. And I love the wild horses too. So let's work together and make this a win-win situation for everybody involved. Thank you. Don't forget your pen. I'm sorry.
Good morning. My name is Catherine Riles, and I am a longtime Nevada resident. First, I would like to clarify a few things. For individuals to say that there are no deer, no bighorn, no wildlife on the Virginia range, I suggest they get out there and do their own research, because I can tell you there are. I have seen deer, I have seen bighorn. I used to see quite a bit of other wildlife, such as the predators, but Nevada Department of Agriculture and the state of Nevada has they have predator management on the Virginia range and other ranges in Nevada. So if you're not seeing wildlife on the Virginia range, then that could be why, as in to predators. I am a Nevada resident and a wild horse lover. And for individuals to say that wild horses are destroying our ranges, not just the Virginia range, all the ranges, are incorrect. I recommend every single one of you in this room, if you don't have the research or the documentation, if you haven't done your own investigation, then you need to get out there and you need to speak. You don't, and speak up for the true cause of the range and the problems. The wild horses are not only a tourist attraction for the state of Nevada, which Nevada could be making money on if they chose to advertise our wild horses instead of hate them. I suggest Nevada Department of Agriculture work with the city of Reno, with the wild horse advocates, and do more to protect these wild horses than eradicate them. There are plenty of individuals that want to help the wild horses, but it seems like a recent developer in the state of Nevada, in the city of Reno, has caused issues. And it seems like the Nevada Department of Agriculture has seemed to be wanting to get rid of these wild horses, and I'm not really sure why, but I think some true answers need to be answered. More research needs to be done. More investigation needs to be done. And for anyone to speak ill of the wild horses, that they cause destruction, we need to thank them for some of our wildlife. Oh, time out, 30 seconds. Oh, we need to thank them for protecting our range, for the grazing that they do, and protecting us from some of the wildfires that we recently had, because they kept the vegetation down. You go out on the Virginia range, and I'm not just saying Washoe Lake, explore the area, look at what is out there. Don't just hate the wild horses. Look at the true numbers of what is out there. Look at the bighorns that are on the Virginia range. Look at the deer that are on the Virginia range. I have seen this myself. I know they're out there. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name's Sarah. I've had the privilege or the blessing to live out in Washoe Valley for 41 years, adjacent right to the BLM land, 60 foot from my front door. And I've seen a lot. I've been to these meetings over and over and over regarding these horses. You try to get rid of them, people trying to get rid of them, coming up with different excuses every time. I thought this was settled when this last time, when they said that you were gonna train them over at the prison and that you were gonna leave horses out, that wasn't too long ago. I feel the real reason, and I know the real reason, is because you're still planning to develop 1,000 homes in Pleasant Valley by the bridge, 1,000. That's legally 2 people per bedroom, plus another one. That's 5,000 people that can be moving legally into one home in our area. Of course, they want to get rid of the horses. Of course, they want to get rid of all the wildlife. What's next? The deer? They get hit by cars. What's after that? It's not just the horses, it's all the wildlife that will be restricted from their water. We have bears, mountain lions, coyotes, on and on and on. And all of them are going to suffer if that area is sealed off and there's no water. And where are they going to go? In the yards, in the sprinkler systems. They need water. You know, they've been here way before us. We have survived, they have survived. Sorry, I get a little radical here. And there's no reason besides the wealthy and the developers, and I don't know who's greasing whose hands, but that's my opinion. That's all I gotta say.
Hello, my name is Richard Phelan. I live in Washoe Valley off of East Lake. And I can only speak on one subject that I know a lot about as a commercial driver is speed is the problem on East Lake. I won't talk about the other highways in the area, but East Lake, speed is the problem. You cannot hit a horse if you're doing 35 miles an hour. You cannot hit a horse if you're doing 45. The problem with vehicle versus horse is speed. And we need more enforcement and we need signage. We need lighted signs and we need more patrols to keep the speed down. I'm a transplant from California and we drive fast in California. As a Nevadan, I have slowed down. And when I saw a horse lose his head off of East Lake, literally a scene from Godfather, I immediately changed my driving habits. And for you to say that horses versus vehicles, you just need to slow down, sir. Slow the hell down.
You don't know how fast I drive.
Okay, but if you drive 35 or 45, it's impossible to hit a horse on East Lake.
You don't know how fast I drive. End of
Well,
story.
I'm just saying that is the major problem on East Lake. Enforcement and keeping the speed down. The posted speed limit is going to save lives. That's all. Thank you.
Yes, Sierra? We have people who need to fly out here. We want to go over to comments from here in Las Vegas, and then we'll go to comments online.
Are we getting back
How
to
many
Sparks?
more do we have here? Sierra,
Can you please raise your hand if you have not given public comment and you would still like to?
Okay, so perhaps we can just do one more here before we go to Vegas.
We have 2 here. So 2 more here in the room.
Yeah, so
Yes,
can we do that?
we'll do that then. 2 more comments from Sparks, and then we'll go to Las Vegas.
Hi, my name is Nancy Davis. I wasn't going to speak, but the consensus is about the same in here. I just want to say that I feel that it is a privilege to live where we live, and I feel that the only problem are people. It's the people that are causing all of the problems. They are too many. They don't care about this area, especially most of the transplants. Some of them, they do. I've been here for over 50 years, so I don't feel like I'm a transplant anymore. But I mean, we had a bobcat come through our yard the other night. We have bears. I love bears.
I do believe, as much as I hate to say it, I do believe that there are too many horses. But you hear sometimes that they're going to give them the birth control, but then that's sort of, oh, one here, couple of there. Why don't we make more of a concerted effort? I've seen what fencing does to horses. It's not pretty. Fencing is not the answer. I think we ought to fence the people out, and we would have a lot. Things would be calmer. We didn't have this problem 50 years ago when Mount Rose was a 2-lane road. Now it's a freeway. Anyway, that it's a privilege. Please don't change anything. I can't stand the thought of fences. I don't want to be fenced in. The horses don't understand it. That's what the people might understand what they're trying to do, but the horses, none of the animals, and it's not just the horses, it's all the other animals that you're fencing out from the water. And that is unconscionable. If there are too many, yes, they probably need to be rounded up, but very humanely. But don't get rid of all of them. And I don't want to go to Washoe Valley and see a fence at all. I don't know where I would have to move, but I love it here. And I love all of the animals, every one of them. Thank you.
Sherman Swanson, Coalition for Healthy Nevada Lands, Wildlife, and Free Roaming Horses. When horse populations are excessive, reducing numbers becomes necessary. When reductions are impossible, exclusion fencing becomes necessary. The question is not if horses, it is where and what numbers sustain our desired mix of land uses with perennial vegetation, not cheatgrass. Perennial vegetation is needed for forage in dry years, wildlife habitat, and soil protection. If we lose the soil, we lose the future for all of us. Riparian areas are the heart of wildlife habitat, and excessive grazing throughout the growing season destroys this habitat. To keep the habitat for wildlife and horses requires management. Nevada citizens must support proper management of horses. And that is the responsibility of Nevada, because by state law, that is how these horses are to be managed. Thank you, Nevada Department of Agriculture, for trying this challenging task. And thanks to everybody in this room for wanting to be part of the conversation about how to do this in a way that is sustainable for the things we care about.
I think we can turn it over to Las Vegas.
Okay, now we would like to go to comments here in Las Vegas. So if you care to comment, please step forward, state your name, and remember the rules, 3 minutes maximum.
No, public comment.
You should have a mic right above you, sir.
Okay. My name's Joe Blakeslee. I'm representing the Coalition for Nevada's Wildlife. We're a group of sportsmen, a number of sportsmen's organizations. We support anything that will help indigenous wildlife and their habitat. We also support watershed soils. Sherman mentioned that just now, an excellent testimony. I won't repeat what he said. Gross overpopulations of horses don't benefit anybody or anything. And we would like to see them down to appropriate management levels. The word appropriate is appropriate. Thank you.
If I may have your permission to also hand comments to the director, deputy director. Is that?
Yes, yeah.
So my name is Jenny Luciette. I'm here on behalf of the Coalition of Healthy Nevada Lands. The Coalition of Healthy Nevada Lands supports NDA proposals and projects for fencing the Virginia range. These projects will assist in keeping the overpopulation of stray horses off areas with concerns of adverse effects to the rangelands plants and water sources, also conservation areas, migratory bird protected areas that are dedicated to certain species, ensuring their viability, wildlife and public safety concerns related to roads and residential areas. In addition, are other areas to consider. The coalition requests that the number of stray horses immediately be brought down to the minimal feasible level of 300 horses and then maintain not to exceed 600 free roaming horses. In your 2000 agreement, the carrying capacity of 550 horses for the entire Virginia range has proven to be ineffective based on today's estimated population levels of around 3,900. The effects to the ranges and wildlife are beyond a critical state. Once the Virginia range is at appropriate management level, it's recommended that NDA create a partnership that will work to develop a true fertility control program. This should include a database with pertinent details of each animal, including pictures, dates of vaccines and foals. The population continues to increase. Due to these estimates, in 2020 it was 3,000, 21, 3,100, 2022, almost 3,200, 2023, 3,500, and today over 3,900. So obviously fertility control is not reducing population. The coalition also requests that stray animals showing signs of genetic and physical deformities are to be humanely euthanized immediately as an act of mercy. There's pictures I provided that you'll see that are walking around in neighborhoods. And if those horses were in our backyards, it would be a federal offense. Obviously, there is concerns regarding public safety issues. We request that NDA review the increase of stray horses on roadways, creating collisions with vehicles, and put forth a plan to decrease the incidences, especially in residential areas and on Nevada highways. Again, pictures are there showing the destruction. Finally, the coalition has witnessed a failure of proper management at the Washoe Lake Scripps Wildlife Area, a migratory bird nesting area, which currently has been overtaken by stray horses. This is where we support the fencing of this and find.
That is your 3 minutes.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
At some point, I'd like to also comment on a personal note, if the board will allow that.
Yeah, we'll get everybody else's comment and see where we are at once. Thank you.
Thank you.
Do we have other comments here in this location? If not, we'll go to Elko for comments.
Go ahead.
Hi, my name is Lily Wolf, and I'm not going to talk about the wild horses. I wanted to let the board know that I'm against the proposed changes to the NAC 571. In 2022, many workshops were held regarding mandatory annual trichomoniasis testing. Not all cattle producers in the state support mandatory trick testing, and many producers signed a petition against it. I would like to note that some of those producers do annually trick test, but they noted they did not approve the government mandating them to trick test. The 2022 workshops discussed different issues regarding trichomoniasis. One of the issues brought up by producers was that bulls are moved around within the state and that this is the concern for spread of the disease. The department has noted that trick is not a statewide disease and that it only has some hotspot areas. This spring, a trick issue arose here in Elko County, and the department immediately acted on the issue and implemented the existing regulation in place. This issue is briefly mentioned in the December 6, 2024 Division of Animal Industry Board Report. I would like the board to ask the department about this issue to determine if the current regulation is sufficient. From 2014 to 2024, approximately 50% of bulls that were tested each year in the state have resulted in less than 1% positive. The 11-year average is actually 0.72%. The state has noted in their meetings this is not a statewide issue. I would like the board to consider the following before voting on the proposed changes to the NAC Chapter 571. Number one, why is the proposed regulation being changed to require 5 years of trick testing? 5 years is an excessive burden to producers, adding time and more cost to their operation. During the 2022 and 2023 workshops, producers also had concerns about having vets available to do the testing. 5 years increases the demand for more vets. Number two, why does the regulation require a neighbor to test for 5 years if their bulls test negative? They were not the source of the problem. Is this a backdoor way to make trick testing mandatory? Number three, does the current regulation work if implemented? Again, ask the department about the current situation in Elko County. Hotspot areas are known within the state, and the department can enforce the current regulation within these areas. Therefore, please don't approve the proposed changes to NAC 571. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Do we have any other comment from Elko?
Yes, we do.
Yes.
Hello,
If not,
I'm
we will call on. Okay, please go ahead.
Okay. Hello, I am Jennifer Garrett. I emailed on 8/27/24 all the board members, the director, the state vet, and the animal industry administrator a letter asking that the board make changes to the proposed changes to NAC 571. I was going to read that letter and submit it during the public comment at the September 4th meeting in Elko. As we know, that meeting was canceled. Since then, I received the 2022 through 2024 trichomoniasis test results from the state, which is I've attached below. Seeing that trick in Nevada has averaged less than 1% for the last 11 years has made me change my mind about the proposed changes to NAC 571. I realize that there is no need to change the current regulation. It works as written. The 11-year testing results prove this, and NAC 571 will continue to work without any changes as long as enforcement is done by the Department of Ag. The 2024 positivity numbers are greater due to a trick outbreak in northern Nevada last spring. The department did a very good job of immediately enforcing the current NAC 571. All bulls that neighbored ranches that had trick positive bulls were tested until they reached a ranch that was clean. The cleanup of this hotspot proves that this regulation is efficient and effective without any changes needed. There is no need for more unnecessary regulation that will only burden both the department that has to enforce it and burden the producer that has to abide by it. Therefore, I urge this board to deny acceptance of the proposed changes to NAC 571 and leave it as written. The proposed changes are just a backdoor way of initiating mandatory annual trick testing. We do not need additional governmental costs and burdens for a problem that has affected less than 1% of the bulls in the last 11 years, proving that the current regulations are working. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Any other comment in Elko?
No, there's none other.
Did you say none other?
Yeah, he said none
Okay, thank you. So we'll go online. Sierra, can you manage that?
Yes. First hand up I see is Craig Downer. If anyone else has a public comment, please raise your hand first and we will call on you.
Okay, yes. Thank you for letting me talk. I'm a wildlife ecologist here from Minden, Nevada. And I have an organization called the Wild Horse and Burro Fund, as well as Andean Taper Fund, so 501c3. I think it's outrageous that the Nevada State Agriculture and state parks have decided to fence these wild horses off their longstanding habitat along the shores of Washoe Lake. This is critical habitat for these animals, providing forage, water, shelter, etc. And they are harmoniously adapting here to the benefit of many plant and animal species through soil building and intact seed dispersal and a variety of other mutualistic relationships. The Nevada state government should take steps to secure their place here by mitigating and preventing conflicts with traffic, particularly along the East Washoe Road and elsewhere. I recommend putting in some natural overpasses, increasing signs to slow down and lowering the speed limits. There are several places where overpasses would be possible, as the contours of the west slope of the Virginia Mountain would make this easily possible and lend themselves well. I also recommend strategic fencing to prevent collisions and interference, particularly used areas like playgrounds or particularly sensitive wildlife habitats. As far as the horses' effects on the wildlife, including birds, they should not be blamed for what people are doing with their vehicles, boats, hiking, littering, trash, and other forms of disturbing these animals. I have observed a lot of, including the state parks officials, taking their vehicles down on the shorelines and causing a lot of disturbance, and this should be controlled. People should just leave tracks and not go everywhere with their vehicles. And this, anyway, there should be a careful study. I recommend a careful study of the relative effects and also the positive benefits that horses contribute to ecosystems. There are many of these. They are a balancing component, and they're appreciated by thousands of people. Earlier testimony indicated how many both local and people from out of the area come here and greatly thrilled to see and photograph and observe these horses. I know I do. This is a quality of life issue involving the general public, and the state of Nevada should accommodate these beautiful animals rather than adopt the disreputable blame game that too many do today. As a professional wildlife ecologist and head of this nonprofit,
That is your 3 minutes.
I offer my help, and I gave you a link to my peer-reviewed article about positive effects of these return native species.
Thank you, Craig.
Thank you.
We're going to move on to Tracy Wilson.
Good morning, Chair and Board. My name is Tracy Wilson, and I am the Nevada State Director for American Wild Horse Conservation. In April 2019, when we entered into a cooperative agreement for fertility control on the Virginia Range, we were told there were approximately 3,000 horses. After the first 2 to 3 years of intense documenting by our volunteers, we now know that number was closer to 4,000. This number is evidenced by the individual horse records with photographs that we maintain. After 5.5 years of continuous fertility control treatment, the population is now approximately 3,500. Full births have been reduced by 72% compared to the first full year of treatment in 2020. Survival rate of foals born is less than 50% by the end of their first year, primarily due to predation. Population was first stabilized, and with ongoing fertility control treatment is now on a steady decline. In FY22, the NDA was awarded $500,000 in federal earmark money. At that time, we met with then directors Jennifer Ott and Animal Administrator Doug Ferris and identified high priority public safety areas in need of fencing as guided by the language in the earmark. In FY23, the NDA received another $500,000 earmark with similar language. The highest priority public safety areas remain the same as they do today. This is clearly defined by the areas with the highest horse vehicle collisions. However, that is not where the earmark money is currently being spent. South Reno and Fernley have not seen a single dollar of these funds. South Reno is only getting fenced through the city funding being scraped together. Wild Horse Connection even had to hold a fundraiser with local community members donating to help meet the desperate need. While we would support NDA fencing from Centennial Park in North Carson City to Duck Hill Road and repair of the long-failing state park fencing, which has been refenced and repaired by local nonprofit groups, we strongly oppose the 23 miles of fencing planned. The NDA has stated it's not the intent to cut the horses off of water, but that is exactly what's being done. The proposed 23 miles of fencing will cut horses off of Springs, Steamboat Creek, and Washoe Lake. What is being touted as the so-called other water sources for the horses in the north part of this area are exclusively seasonal ponds. As of last week, 3 of the 4 ponds are dry. One has a very small amount of water left. There's a significant fire danger to consider. Property owners west of this proposed fence will find themselves surrounded by fast-growing flash fuels that are no longer grazed down by horses, again contributing to extreme wildfire danger. As we saw with the recent Davis and Callahan Ranch fires, devastation can happen quickly. Most troubling is that there is zero transparency with this taxpayer-funded fence. We ask that the progress of this fence be halted, the lack of transparency resolved, and that these funds be redistributed to the highest priority areas for public safety where it is truly needed. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. We're going to move on to Iris.
Yes, I am Iris Julie Poupard, a Washoe County resident, and I'm in extreme opposition of this 23-mile fencing. I think Tracy Wilson just brought up a lot of great points. I'm baffled why the Ag Department money is not going for areas of more need of fencing of these horses in South Reno. So we have a more urban area where horses are, but we have no Nevada Department of Agriculture money going to these fences. That just, I do not understand that. I think that the public deserves an answer to that. From my understanding, something like this fence that's starting to be installed needs a NEPA permit that takes much time. And from my understanding, there is no NEPA permit for this fencing. So how is it being allowed? And wildfire risk, that is putting houses at risk. And then you have these horses doing that work for us to reduce those fuels that could damage our housing, and you're wanting to remove it. As a tax-paying citizen, I expect Nevada Division of Agriculture to work with transparency and in collaboration with these wild horse advocate groups. And it doesn't seem like that's happening at all. I think also on the positive end, as it's been mentioned, it is a really a humongous opportunity missed. California has oceans and redwoods. Nevada has, the Wild West. And when you think of the Wild West, what's the first thing you think of? Most people think of horses. You want to call them feral, abandoned, whatever you want to call them, horses without somebody owning them. I'm going to call them wild horses, that they are such a unique aspect to Nevada. And we are sitting here hurting these very lovely animals that people just naturally connect with when they see them. They could be an economical force for this region. And the city of Reno, I feel like, is really trying to do their best diligence to address this issue, and Nevada Department of Agriculture is not. Give the respect to these horses that they deserve, and really do your due diligence to have it be incorporated as something that is of value and pride for the state of Nevada. Thank you.
Thank you, Iris. We're going to move on to Steve Page.
Good morning. My name is Steve Page. I'm a field representative with American Wild Horse Conservation. I'm asking for an immediate halt on the construction of the 23-mile fence in the Washoe Lake area. Many of the people I've seen around the lake, hiking, camping, they've all traveled here just to spend time with the horses. Washoe Lake is a key part of the Virginia Range. It's allowing public access to the horses, and that's critical because that supports our ecotourism. This would fence off hundreds of horses from their only reliable year-round water source, most likely forcing their removal. This would also increase the fire danger in the area. Fast-growing flash fuels no longer being grazed down by horses contribute to extreme wildfires, as we saw in the recent Davis fire. Thank you.
Thank you. We're going to move on to Deanna Kirk.
My name is Dina Kirk, and I'm the Nevada Operations Coordinator for American Wild Horse Conservation. The lack of transparency surrounding the 23 miles of proposed fencing means there is no plan revealed. No timeline has been given, nor has any information regarding the process that was used to determine the need for this fence. And a big concern, an unanswered question, is who will maintain this fence? The NDA, the BLM, state parks? We don't know. Last week, a horse was hit by a vehicle on East Lake Boulevard for the first time in 2024. That's right, one horse strike in that area for the entire year. 20 yards away from there, a section of fence had been cut straight through all the wires, creating a hole. If fencing cannot be kept intact in plain view next to a traveled roadway, how will this fence high on the range be maintained? For years, local advocacy groups have discovered cut fencing on major freeways, including I-80 and I-580, as well as local areas, including properties currently under development. If fencing cannot be kept intact in these locations, how are you going to fence high on the range and keep that maintained? When my team and I went up to view the new fencing already installed, 2 of the farmers' gates in the new fence line were laying open on the ground. How is this going to be maintained? The cattle guard in the fence line was half filled with dirt, posing an immediate risk to horses and other wildlife who might try to cross it. It is irresponsible and negligent to leave it in that condition. The NDA has stated the rest of the fence is in NEPA review, but it is still not on the register. Please stop progress on this fence and move your funds to the areas of higher priority for public safety and be more transparent with the public going forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Deanna. Laura, Carson City, could you please state your first and last name as well?
It was Laura from Carson City. If she could state her first and last name is what Sierra said.
Sierra, we couldn't hear you very good, Sierra. It sounded like you were driving in a wind tunnel or somebody had background noise. I don't know if the online folks heard you either.
Sorry about that. Laura, if you would like to make a public comment, you can do so now. If you could please tell us your first and last name.
Good morning. My name is Laura Fusen from Carson City. Can you hear me?
We can hear you. Please go ahead.
Thank you. I would like to make public comment regarding the wild horses of Nevada, specifically of Reno, Carson area. Seems these horses are always in the spotlight, and I recognize several groups either happy or very upset by their presence. I see a possible solution as Washoe State Park. State parks are built for the people to recreate. Build this fence blocking horses from sprawling residential areas and high traffic roads, and build wildlife bridges so the animals, all animals, can access Washoe Lake lands. Allow wild horses, animals to migrate to and from Washoe from the Virginia Highlands comfortably, safely, and easily via a wildlife bridge. This also allows the public a special place to view wild horses in their natural environment, witnessing nature and the bounty of the snow-capped Sierras. Wild horses are a natural resource of Nevada, just like mining, cattle ranching, and hunting. I know all you don't see it that way, but consider it for a moment as a natural resource. Turn the tide on the horse problem and make it the solution. This nationally recognized state park already has the basic infrastructure and can readily be improved to capitalize as a natural wild horse park. Senator Julie Pizzina Chair of Committee on Natural Resources, wrote to Governor Lombardo September 2024 requesting he consider funding to just such a wildlife bridge in his executive budget. I am a retired, willing, and physically able person ready to donate my time and energy to volunteer and support such a plan. I know there are many others that feel this same way. Please allow wild horses to share in the bounty of Nevada, just like the mining, cattle, and game hunters. Dedicate a natural resource, Washoe State Park, already in place to solve the problem. Wild horses are a Nevada tourism attraction, as attested by the multitude of wild horse statues and murals throughout Nevada. Imagine a dedicated area right off a major highway on the way to our capital to view these equine beauties. Please do not block the wild horses off Washoe Lake by fencing them out and pushing the problem up the hill into the next community. Thank you.
Thank you, Laura. Jen, we're gonna move on to you. Could you please state your first and last name for us?
Sure. My name is Jen Stahl, and as a lifetime horse lover, longtime horse owner, and a resident of Steamboat Valley, I am dismayed by what is being done and not done by the Nevada Department of Agriculture. What is being done? The NDA has chosen to use congressional funds earmarked to address management of the Virginia range horses to begin fencing up on the range near the Pleasant Valley area and moving south for approximately 6 miles at last account, with a plan to extend this for more than 20 miles to Carson City. In doing this, they've taken away a natural occurring water source that the horses on the range access, that being Washoe Lake, along with other water sources like Steamboat Valley, which is in the hills east of East Lake Boulevard, and which the horses frequent, especially in the spring and summer. How many more water sources, which have been available to the horses in the past, are they going to fence them out of? The claim is that there's plenty of water on the range, but the NDA has yet to say where these water sources are. And what is not being done by the NDA? The department is not using these funds intended to enhance public safety and support local management programs to assist with the very high priority fencing project in the South Reno area. The NDA has rejected requests by the city of Reno for funding to complete this fencing project to keep the horses out of the neighborhoods and off the roadways. At the same time, the NDA is not approving any diversionary feed sites for the South Reno area, not a single one. This program has proven itself effective in keeping horses off the streets as we go into the winter season, and yet the department refuses to improve any sites. And what will the effects of these refusals to act be by the NDA? Certainly there will be horse vehicle accidents. If public safety truly was a concern, and if the welfare of the horses was also a concern of the NDA's, they would assist the city of Reno with funding the South Reno fencing project, and they would approve diversionary feeding for this winter season. Instead, the NDA is using that funding to place a fence up on the range, which takes away water sources from horses in that area and also prevents horses currently at the lake from returning to the range. What is their plan for these horses? When are they going to tell the local residents, the visitors, the tourists, the many people who frequent the lake to enjoy these horses what they plan to do? It is time for the Nevada Department of Agriculture to be transparent with the community about their plans and intentions. It is time for the NDA to begin assisting the efforts to manage the horses instead of being a detriment to these efforts. The city of Reno came together with various stakeholders in the community to take steps to address public safety and manage the horses. It's time for the Nevada Department of Agriculture to do the same. Thank you.
Thank you, Jen. That looks like all of the public comment.
Okay, thank you. We will move on now. For those, there will be a public comment period at the end of the meeting for those who wish to take a second shot at it. We'll move on now to approval of the minutes of the June 4th meeting. I will entertain a motion to approve when you're ready.
We approved the minutes from
June 4th.
June 4th.
Second that.
Thank you. I have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion regarding the minutes? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. The minutes are approved. Now, item for board management, possible dates for board meetings for the upcoming year. Those are in your packet, I believe. Is everybody looking at those? Are there any comments or preferences for the two options offered?
And I want to thank everybody for coming down to Las Vegas. This has been, I don't know, decades that this board meeting was held in December. No offense, Jim, but we like it better, or Hank, James, I looked at your name, say I know you better. Hey Hank, no offense, we like it better in December than July down here. So that's why we were coming down. We have recommended as staff to continue doing as we have in the past. And as you guys approved last year to have this meeting in December down here, coincides with National Finals Rodeo, a lot of shopping. So everybody's happy in that. Well, not everybody's happy, but a lot of the others are in the room are happy. So these are our recommendations. We would ask that if something does arise as a conflict, such as the March 5th, 6th, if we have some legislative things that we are anticipating, a little flexibility in there would be good because that will be during session. As long as you guys, if you set your dates and are willing to be a little flexible one way or the other, we could poll the group at a future date to move a day or two.
What's that? How soon a notice would we have changes?
Oh, we give you weeks.
No Fridays.
Pardon me?
No Fridays. That's why we did Wednesday, Thursday.
Okay. Do we have a motion to accept one of the proposed options?
How about go for 30 days?
So we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Board member updates. If we can move around the room, starting with Hank.
What am I doing?
Just
Introduce myself.
a board member update, anything you care to talk about relative to board business, including ag related stuff in your area?
So yeah, I'm new to the board, obviously, and it's my first meeting.
I apologize for putting you up.
Well, you set him up good.
Yeah.
I can't think of any right now.
Okay. I'll give you a second chance.
Maybe for everybody, Hank,
State vet would be good.
the position you filled that you represent, what group, and just so everybody knows, because we do have some new faces on.
Yeah,
board.
so General Ag, been in Las Vegas my whole life. We have a hog farm. I'm my 6th generation out of Kentucky, California, Las Vegas. We are niches, feeding food scrap hogs and livestock, cattle, goats, sheep. And, food outside of town here at Apex, about a half hour from here. I was president of that farm group for 12 years.
Very good. Thank you.
Tom Baker in White Pine County Public Lands. The rains are pretty good in our area. We got good winter storm last year, but it essentially shut off, and we got some monsoonal moisture, and the ranges are spotty, some good places and some poor. Been a good water year, and we're at.
Thank you. Do you care to comment, or do you want a moment to?
I'll just jump in there, Jim. So my name is Debbie Gilmore. I am from Lyon County. I represent specialty crops, which is huge. So My specialty crop, I'm a fourth generation beekeeper out of Mason Valley. We're also lavender producers. It's been a really difficult year for beekeepers, pretty much all over the state of Nevada, but also in other states, also in other countries. Honey production is probably 80% down in most areas.
You said 80% down or at 80%?
80% down. Those are the reports from other states, Montana, Wyoming, Colorado. We've had huge bee losses this year. And there was just a report that came out that the national average loss of honeybees is the highest that it has been in 14 years since they started that. So it's a difficult time for beekeepers and honeybees. So I'm thankful to be on this.
Is there no why it's down?
You know, we hear a lot of different ideas.
Sure.
But there's nothing conclusive.
Wow.
You might know in 10 years from now.
Oh.
Thank you, Debbie. Welcome to the board.
Thank you.
Mackenzie?
Yep, hello, Mackenzie Campbell, representing Petroleum again. I have a few industry updates for you. We're anticipating the AB 294 coming back this session. That's the tobacco flavor ban. So our group is watching that. Another issue that we are watching is the California ABX 2-1, which is the reserves of the refineries keeping a minimal stock, which we're not anticipating any changes in Nevada right now, but we are watching it for future supply disruptions and price increases. So we're working with our California counterparts as well as our group just to monitor this bill. Some good news is a lot of convenience stores, including privately owned places, are getting tap to pay, which is helping with skimmers and fraud prevention. So if you see that at the gas pump, use that. That's the safest way to purchase fuel. Some good news from our end, we have recently rebranded our Convenience and Petroleum Association. So we are now ETAN, effective as of yesterday. So that will be Energy Convenience Association of Nevada. And we are excited to announce that we'll have our first legislative day in the industry, and that will be April 7th at the legislature this year.
Thank you.
Hello, everyone. I love being on this board because I find out the most fascinating information. I feel like all Nevadans should know, but never get to hear. So thank you for that update. So I just wanted to share, I sit and represent supplemental nutrition. The average Nevadan household spends $300, $295 per week on groceries. That's fourth highest in the nation. One of our favorite items for our seniors is honey, and we purchase it in Nevada, which is kind of cool. I hate public speaking, you guys, so sorry. I'm having anxiety.
Scare you more.
I know. But we surveyed 7,100 people last month. 83% reported relying on TFAP to have 3 meals a day, which is pretty incredible. And out of those 7,100 people, 91% had better health outcomes in their household. So thank you guys so much for what you guys do. You guys are a true lifeline for organizations like ours. And you guys are a team, an extension of the nonprofit serving for food insecurity. And I'm gonna work with Melanie here to get content so that she can post on social media, because I just think the awareness for people to know and understand where the supplemental food comes from, what the state of Nevada is doing for our food insecure neighbors. I think that we have a long way to go on strategically dispersing this food. So because we have very little of what we had during the pandemic naturally, so that actually got a lot of people dependent on the food. And so My goal is to just continue working with the NDA and the other organizations that do distribute this TFAT food and use the food as supplemental emergency food, but also as the connector to other services so we can really truly help people become self-sustainable, because the answer is not to have people on this supplemental food forever. Clearly our seniors are a delicate population. We want them to have these services always, but yeah, it's very interesting. So if anybody is super nerdy about food and food insecurity, please talk to me, because I am super nerd for it. And I would love to talk to you more about it. And thank you guys, that was very kind, because I almost hyperventilated. It's like 1 out of 10 times I'm a shit show, otherwise I nail it. So sorry, thank you guys.
Thank you. Good job. Heather.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Heather Lackey. I'm here representing Pest Control for Douglas County. So as we all know, the weather has such a great play for us on what happens in a lot of our industries. And in pests, we're seeing a lot of populations that have just exploded. We're seeing damage from rodents more than I've ever seen in as long as I've been doing this. And it's taken a little bit more time spending with people and educating them what it is that they can do to prevent some of that and dealing with the problem. And it's been wonderful to have so many people to go help and educate and try to make a difference for all the different people in their homes and businesses. And I just really enjoy what I do, and I'll just keep it simple today. So thank you for having me here.
Thank you. So if we can move to Elko, Pete, you have a report for us?
Yes, it's Pete Paris for the Nevada Wool Growers representative on the Board of Ag. There's not a lot to report. Lamb prices was almost non-existent this fall. They've come up a little bit lately, but most of the lambs have already been moved. The wool market is in the tank, and labor is still continuing to be a huge problem. We're hoping now that we could maybe get some reprieve on the labor situation and add fuel to the fire. Most of the Nevada wool growers are depend on snow for the winter, and there's been very little of that. So a lot of growers hauling water in zero weather makes life not very easy. So we're looking for hopefully a better spring, summer, and year next year. That's about all we have. So thank you.
Thank you, Pete. Moving to Sparks.
We've got a request, if we can, to take a quick 5-minute break. They have a mic issue in Sparks. So if you would, Mr. Chair, if you could take a 5-minute bio break, they'll fix that microphone issue.
Okay, let's do that. In fact, let's make it 10 minutes.
Okay.
That's what's on the agenda.
No.
That's why the process was put in by.
Hey Doug, can you hear us okay?
The first time we changed it, of course, right after
Sure.
the sale barn, so that name will stick with us forever.
Are you the owner?
Yes, I'm the,
We can hear you fine now.
I'm the owner's son. So what's funny is.
It sounds okay now? Good. Yep, good.
I got it.
Okay, we'll call the meeting back to order, and I think we have board members in Sparks, David Ruff. Give your report.
Okay, recently appointed here for the nursery industry and made a few phone calls out to other people in the state here, and nobody really had any major concerns at this point. And I have been talking with Megan recently about the upcoming proposal on fees for pesticides, which we may cover later.
Very good, thank you. And welcome to the board.
Thank you.
Greg Shank.
Well, I don't know if I have a lot to report, but maybe some questions, but for those constituents that I work with and some of the dairy clients that our practice is pretty involved in, there, kudos to the Department of Agriculture and those that facilitated this bird control that's going on right now. Probably shouldn't say a lot about that, but I know there'll be a lot of press here in a few days. Also, I'm hoping that our interim state veterinarian will have some comments about the HPAI, highly pathogenic avian influenza issues that we're dealing with, especially in the neighboring states, and a possible risk to our state. Also, we're getting comfortable with the new regulations that came into effect on the 5th of November, that mandatory RFID tags as an official ID for cattle that'll be shipped, or for bangs, brucellosis identification. Still have some wrinkles to work out there with these small hobby farms that don't raise enough animals a year for them to think they need to file for a premise ID and purchase tags. I still have a lot of questions about what's going on in the sale barn, especially that's where a lot of these hobby farms market their animals and how they're being done, and who's watching that hen house, who's documenting that this has been done, and who's keeping the database on those. But so maybe we'll talk about some of that today, but that's my report.
Very good, thank you. Justin Johnson.
Yes, I have no comment at this time.
Okay, thank you. Do we have Barlin on yet?
I still do not see
Okay,
him online.
Barlin. Pardon me?
He's still not online.
Okay, thank you. For my own report, broken record, hay producers in Lyon County are not doing well. It's very difficult. We're worried about drought. It was early in the year. Garlic and onion crops and other vegetable crops have had a good year. Beyond that, I just wanted to express my appreciation for all of the board, all of the staff, and everyone here who are so intensely interested in agriculture. It's very gratifying for me to be among you. Thank you. And moving on to the director's report.
Pay attention, Megan.
Sorry.
Mr. Paris, Megan Brown wanted you to give a report because you had been so uplifting the last 4. We weren't sure you had went this time because it was all typical sheep stuff. You knew I wasn't gonna let that slide. All right, thank you guys. Director's report. You guys have it. It was sent to you electronically and it's online for you to review. You can read. I'm not gonna go through it. There are a few big ticket things that I do want to hit on as we get in. First, I want to use my prerogative as a director to take a moment and recognize the anniversary of the University of Nevada, Las Vegas shooting that was 1 year ago today, and those that responded to that and those that were so impacted by that. We live in a different world. unfortunately, but it's hard to believe it's been 1 year to the day already for that. So I did want to recognize those that responded, those that lost their lives on that day. And maybe we find a better way to live together. State vet update. First, as you heard me say, I am the interim state vet, but not for long. That position has been offered, and the offer was accepted, and a letter was sent back. We have a start date of January 6th. At this time, I'm not going to say that name out of respect for that individual and the entity that he is currently working for. He is a regulatory veterinarian and has to finish up some work in his current position. And so we drug this out into the next calendar year in order to be respectful to that agency and to him. He will be a great asset for this department, and I look forward to working with him. Dr. Shank, you brought up one thing. I'm going to get into H5N1 in a minute. You brought up brucellosis vaccination EID tags. Administrator Sustanovich will get into the EID tags, that distribution, what that's looking like, the sale barns and those veterinarians that are receiving tags at those sale barns. He can address all that. However, late last night, I was notified of a situation, and I think it is timely to bring it up here. There is a nationwide shortage and back order on RB51 brucellosis vaccine. I don't know what you have in your practice. I don't know what others have in their practice. We have not had the chance to reach out to everyone yet. But a major supplier in the nation, one that most practices in the West use, I called them last night. They have 5 dose tanks. That is 25 doses of RB51 in all of their warehouses in the nation. So Administrator Sustanovich and I met last night, and we have a lot of sales. We are a mandatory brucellosis state. Those animals have to be bangs vaccinated before they can be sold between 4 and 12 months of age. I asked the administrator to use his authority to waive that requirement in the short term so we do not stop commerce. If those cattle are going out of state, that is up to that state of destination. If they will accept those, either A, be vaccinated on arrival at a later date, B, to a quarantine yard, C, whatever that looks like, to go to that other state. For animals staying in the state, we will ask that they are brucellosis vaccinated after the first of the year, when we expect large quantities of RB51 from Colorado Serum to be back on the market. Right now, their ship dates are the first, second week of January and then into February, with large allocations coming into our warehouses. This is just another example of how fragile our supply chain is in the nation at times. And this is a very, very critical vaccine for a lot of us in the West, especially those of us close to the greater Yellowstone area and Idaho. So we are waiving that requirement. We will get something out in writing this afternoon. It was just a matter of bandwidth this morning to get that out to everyone. We did notify both sale barns in the state of Nevada of this via phone calls last night, because we know there's a lot of stocker cattle moving through those in the next 48 hours. Some of those were vaccinated, and I do have the understanding that some veterinarians did run out of vaccine late last night. So we've identified those cattle separately. I'm going to come back to H5N1. Really, that's about it as far as state veterinarian work goes. The major, again, update was we do have someone selected. I'll get into H5N1 because I expect that to take some time. Director stuff, you can see on here, I went to NASDA, WASDA, Western Associated State Departments of Agriculture. Good organizations. We had a good meetings. We had our annual meeting in the summer for WASDA. We went to Indianapolis late summer, early fall. We have a really good association there, and I'm very fortunate to be a part of that. As far as WASDA goes, I can't think of a better group of directors that we probably have in these Western states. I've sent Doug to some meetings as well. That's why I looked at him. We have each other's back, and we work really close together. I have been on the phone a lot with Idaho and California over the last 4 days. Oregon, they've had some H5N1 situations up there, and their director, Lisa, and I are close personal friends now, and we weren't before this position. But that's just the kind of people they are. So you mentioned those that care about agriculture in Nevada. They're across the West, and I feel pretty confident about where we're going. I'll let Kathy get into budget stuff, but I do want to say that, you know, I want to take a minute and recognize them. You'll see on here, we met with LCB and GFO on agency request budget. Since the time this report was finalized, we also had our GovRec. And her team did a wonderful job. And we actually came out of there with everyone except for one of Doug's rear end cheeks intact. The rest of us came out of there really good. She did a wonderful job with our budget, what we were proposing. And so we are going to be in good shape going into the legislature as far as having the governor behind us. Nothing big, guys. We have some equipment stuff we're looking at in some of our divisions. You heard Dave talk about, he's meeting with Megan on some fee stuff. There's a few moving pieces that we have in there. Nothing real big budget wise. I think we're going to get through. One thing I do want to bring to your attention, we have been meeting with Health and Human Services, that department. So you all know that we launched our in-state meat and poultry inspection program, got those rates going. So now we're in the process of getting those inspectors stood up, and so we can get them out into the field and we can actually hit the ground and go into our processing plants, get those labeled. We know that it's going to take a lot of inspectors. We have a sister agency that uses a lot of environmental inspectors, and they're already out in some of our areas. They do a lot of the stuff that we do, to the point that sometimes it's perceived as crossfiring each other. I think you guys know me over the last 2 years. I don't like that. So we propose to take that program from Health and Human Services in an entirety and bring it over to the Department of Agriculture. So we are going to take a program that deals with food at Health and Human Services, the inspection of food, retail, restaurants, cottage industry, that type of thing. Those environmental inspectors would come and be a part of our environmental inspection team that we already have doing the job at our dairies. So we already have environmental inspectors going out in the dairies. We're just looking to expand that. So if we are successful in the legislature in getting that done, that agency supported this move. They actually came to us with the theory at first to do it. It took Kathy and I some time to really, her to get the numbers and her to convince me that the numbers made sense. Because we're not going to do anything that's going to cost money. We can't do that. So the revenue does come over with it. Right now, we're looking at right around a dozen employees would come over with that program. And so we would be the dairy and food safety program within the animal industry over there. Really expand that, give us more bandwidth. When we run short of inspectors, we have a hard time getting to the dairies or getting to our milk plants. It'd be nice to have this other team in us that can go, and they're already out in the field. So that's one big thing I wanted to bring you guys up on. That we'll be going through the legislative session, and hopefully we'll get there. Navy base expansion, Justin, Dr. Shank, this is in your guys' backyard. Obviously, we have a meeting next week in Sparks. I continue to chair that Intergovernmental Executive Oversight Committee on behalf of the Navy and Fallon Range Training Complex expansion. There are a couple of operators, excuse me, there that I understand have been given offers on what they will lose for their grazing rights and access to their ground there. I don't know what they've accepted. That is a private negotiation between Department of Defense, Navy, and those ranchers, but we have worked very hard as an agency to keep those guys whole. We want to make sure that we keep ranching, and farming. So that'll be next week. We are actually hosting that meeting in Sparks. And so look for an update on that at our next meeting in the spring, and we'll see where we are on that. You'll see we met with the area vet in charge and veterinary services staff to discuss EID tags and shortages. I'll let Chad go into that. We worked really hard to secure an additional 20,000 brucellosis vaccination tags. Chad worked hard, and I want to acknowledge Dr. Turner with USDA. It's good to have friends in high places. Both Mr. Sustanovich and I had worked with him in the past professionally, so that really helped. I did have the opportunity to meet with Deputy Secretary Torres Small in Reno. It was actually up at Palisades on the California side this summer. And we talked a lot about Mormon crickets and grasshoppers. We know that continues to be a problem when they're out and moving. Megan's going to talk a little bit about that and some of our expanded requests for funding that we have done through our congressional delegation. And I'll let her weigh in a little bit more, but thank you to that deputy secretary for taking that meeting. She understands the importance of it. And she actually had staff call me this week on another matter. So she's been good to work with there. Dylan and I did go to Washington, D.C. To Select USA. We had a very successful meeting there with delegations from Japan, Canada, Australia, South Korea, and Denmark. And so we continue to look to expand our partnership and trade. There's a lot of focus on Africa right now nationally, so hopefully him and I will have the opportunity to expand more into there and place some more Nevada products that direction as well going forward. I've already talked about that. One thing I want to say, I want to acknowledge all my staff that we had our first all-staff meeting at the Nugget in Sparks this fall. That was in September 8th and 9th, I believe were the dates on that. First one we'd had since 2019. I feel it's important to build the team. I talked about customer service when I came on, outside and inside. These guys really jumped up and have done a good job reaching out to our industry partners, providing our services that we need. So we wanted to bring them all together. And I think it was a very successful meeting. We're still getting a lot of feedback from that. Contrary to popular belief, we didn't know everything we were doing. We didn't have it all figured out. Doug and I are very flexible, and we're trying to continue to adapt and meet the needs of our employees, and hopefully we're doing so. Ag Day at the legislature, because you mentioned Petroleum Day will be there. Our Ag Day will be March 18th. So the reason I was asking for a little flexibility on that first board meeting, I would like to try to maybe move that around there if we can find a time that works based on legislative calendars, to maybe have that board meeting up in Sparks around Ag Day and kind of, have everybody that can be in town ahead or behind that. So we look forward to that. I know Sierra will be very busy on that. She continues to do a wonderful job. Her and Melanie as being our face out to all of you guys. We do have a virtual all-staff meeting this afternoon. You're welcome to stick around if you wish to be a part of that. We're going to do that after this board meeting. And then Patricia's team, I'll let her talk a little bit more about the warehouse, but we were successful in getting a warehouse purchased in Las Vegas. So while you're in this building, I want you to go with Patricia and go look at our dry storage warehouse out here, the age of it and what it is. We have under one roof now, we will have dry, refrigerated, and frozen. We were able to secure that funding through the legislature, through the Interim Finance Committee, and use ARPA dollars on that. We're close. We had hoped that we would maybe even have a ribbon cutting at this meeting, but we're slowed down into the beginning of the next calendar year. We had some construction changes we needed there in order to accommodate the freezer because they are so heavy. But this is going to save a lot of time. Our drivers aren't running all over the valley. Right now, we contract out all our cold and frozen storage. And so we have to work their mercy. Can you guys get your pallet trucks, get them out there? We'll come pick them up. Can you load us? Our deliveries have to be received there. This is all us now. So way more efficient and all under one roof. So I'm pretty proud of the work we've got done there. And I'll let Patricia elaborate on that.
What are you keeping frozen and cool?
Patricia, when you get yours, I'll let you talk about that. What we're keeping frozen and cool, what kind of products, what programs we run through that warehouse. All right. So on Monday of this afternoon, it's been a long week. My staff knows it's been a long week, not a lot of sleep. On Monday of this week, late in the evening, I received notification of a non-negative test result for H5N1 in a commercial dairy in Nevada. We went to work immediately Monday night on trying to identify that and where we were going. It has taken some time since that initial report. We have had two additionals, bringing the total to 3 positive, meaning non-negative detections. NVSL will be getting back to us later today with sequencing on that, is what I am told. The reason I want that virus sequenced and the reason they want it sequenced is this is the first detection in the state of Nevada. So we want to know where it came from. We want to make sure we did not have a jump from wildlife into the dairy sector. I will go out on a limb and tell you, as the acting or interim state veterinarian, I'm fairly confident we did not. We moved this virus in from a neighboring state unintentionally, obviously, but moved on a class of cattle that we previously did not believe to be a risk to move the virus in. So I did quarantine that operation in Nye County late Monday night, verbally issued paper quarantine on Tuesday to them. We have been working very close with them. They have been a wonderful partner in this. We have worked with the Department of Health and Human Services. Shout out to Melissa Peak Bullock, state epidemiologist, and her partner Brianna and Tonopah. They have been outstanding because we are worried about the human aspect of this. There are several hundred employees on this dairy, and we want to make sure that we don't have any illness associated with H5N1. Normally, it's all mild conjunctivitis. You might get a little stuffy throat or something if you get a respiratory form. I did work also with Dr. Griffith, Nye County Health Officer. He notified their clinic there that was closest to this dairy of what we were dealing with. That clinic and that association that runs that clinic ordered additional medications in, so we are prepared in case we do see some human interaction. Yesterday, I left Reno and picked up a large cache of PPE in Tonopah. Thank you again, Health and Human Services, for that. We delivered it to that dairy. They have been using PPE, but they were going to get short on PPE. So we're going to, and Melanie and I were going to inventory last night, but we didn't get to it. We have some here. We're going to try to help them all we can. Make sure those employees have the gloves, have the eyewear, have the aprons that they need going forward. So what's that mean for us? It doesn't mean a lot for the agricultural industry in its entirety in Nevada. Dr. Shank, I did Tuesday night travel to your community, and I apologize. We were trying to keep this quiet, and we were asked to by our federal partners. I probably should have visited you, and I did not, and I own that completely. But I did travel to your community and met with all of the dairy producers there that were available, and I had this conversation with them. I've also met with the Dairy Council, Nevada Farm Bureau, and I notified the Nevada cattlemen's of this just for awareness. In all fairness, I did notify the two gentlemen to my right yesterday morning early of what we were dealing with when we were certain that this was going to be H5N1 and not something else after NVSL had got that. Pasteurization renders the virus inactive. I'm going to say it again. Pasteurization renders the virus inactive. Our milk and our food supply are safe. They have been safe. They will continue to be safe. We are the 16th state to have a detection of H5N1 in our dairy cows. This isn't new. Now you know why I've been leaning so heavily on my states joining us in the last few days. What are you doing? What were you seeing? What went wrong? What went right? We are working on some relief programs for these dairies. One of the biggest things we do see is a drastic reduction in pounds of milk. Some of these, they're estimating now this dairy 28% reduction as of yesterday is what they were seeing. That's a lot of milk. That's a lot of money when you're a dairy guy. So there are federal programs that have been stood up to the USDA. Those are available. So we are working with them on that. Milk is continuing to flow to our fluid milk plants, both in and out of state, and our dry milk plant in state. And those will continue. Pasteurization continues there. We are not a raw milk state, and I am thankful we are not a raw milk state. And I do not advocate for us to ever be a raw milk state because of situations just like this. There is a recall on raw milk in an adjoining state right now because of H5N1 that was detected in raw milk in that state. So we continue to work on that and make sure that our partners are pasteurizing and everything is appropriate there. We will initiate silo testing. Silo testing is the big bulk tanks you see outside of our fluid milk plants. We will start testing all of those and to see if we have virus, and then we will trace back from there to our individual dairy farms, and we will test their bulk tanks if they did send shipments to that silo that we can trace back. So we're going to try to get around this, ahead of it, and contain it as quick as we can. I feel fairly confident today. I wasn't so much yesterday morning. Melanie went with me yesterday on site as I worked up a fairly extensive epidemiological study on that, and I feel more comfortable that we can contain that. We have to continue commerce, so we are going to continue to allow not only the fluid milk to move, but we have to allow cold cows to move, and we have to allow replacement cows to come in. I think we're going to be in this for some period of time, folks. And especially if we could see it spread like it did in California, we could end up seeing it in northern Nevada. And then I need a game plan, and I think I have it. I feel more comfortable. You will like this, Hank and Dr. Shank. The state vet that is coming on January 6th, I've already been talking to him. I talk to him every day about this, and he has dealt with this. So we're in a good spot that way. I feel comfortable. And again, our messaging is food and milk is safe, and it will continue to be safe. This is more of a production problem that we're going to have. And I don't want to let this virus escape from that dairy and get into our backyard poultry anywhere in my county or any other county. So I imagine there's a few questions. I'll rest with that in the interest of time, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Director.
Anybody have anything for me? Questions, thoughts? Thought on leave.
JJ, Dr. Gogachia, there
You
was.
can call me JJ, Dr. Shank. You've known me long enough.
There was thought that that dairy was going to be moving cows into a dairy here in northern Nevada. What's happening there?
So, in the interest of not speaking out of turn within entity, I had that conversation yesterday. That is not what will be the case, and that is not what was planned. We had already entered into conversations with another state that was shipping cattle into that proposed dairy. They're going to be a while yet, Dr. Shank, getting that dairy opened up that you are talking about. They're still doing some environmental work on there. We had an inspector out 2 weeks ago with those wishing to purchase that dairy. They're buttoning up some work, but these cattle will not be moving to that dairy.
Thank you.
What protocols in place to keep from spreading to the bird population, I guess?
So protocols in place. Good biosecurity is always what we worry about. You heard Dr. Shank mention the work that was going on in Fallon. We hit that aggressively because we were trying to keep that wild bird population from bringing disease in. Those same efforts will be down here immediately behind in southern Nevada, immediately behind Fallon. So that's our majority of our work on that. And then there will be increased surveillance. We're working closely with Department of Wildlife and we're testing everything we find. I'm not going to BS you. We've had it. We have it in the wildlife. We've already had positive cases in our wildlife. This did not jump from wildlife. I want to say that again. It jumped cow to cow. And so those protocols, Mr. Combs, I'm not letting those cows get outside of this dairy where they can spread it anywhere else at this time. We are doing surveillance around. We worked with this dairy yesterday, made sure that their employees that have backyard poultry know what to look for, what we're looking for. My counterpart at the USDA, Dr. Ramos, him and I talked twice yesterday. And so we will be down here in southern Nevada a lot, looking at that to make sure we don't get an escape in the domestic wild birds.
Starlings be a chair?
Starlings are one that we always are concerned about, passing that along. And there are plenty of them right now.
Yeah.
And ravens can also pass it. This virus is lethal for cats as well. So any operations that have some cats and barn cats, you want to be watching for that. That it will jump into the feline population. And that was one of the first things we saw in Kansas and Texas when we had these original outbreaks. Good biosecurity. Your employees need to wash their hands. Your employees need to change their clothes before going home and doing their own chores, whether with their backyard poultry or with their own cows or whatever it is. That's our message. Cats. We will have media coming out later this afternoon. Thank you, Sierra and Melanie, for working with me on that. It was a very fluid, no pun intended, release we were trying to put out as we were working with our federal partners, and this continued to unfold. It has not been released by the USDA, but I'm not going to hide it from this board, just like I didn't hide it from the industry. We meet challenges head on in Nevada. And so if I waited until Monday and then called you guys, you rightfully could have had my hide. And that's not how we do business. So that's why you are the first to know, other than the dairy farmers that I had one-on-one conversations with, because I wanted them to protect their dairies.
Yeah, I Googled it, didn't show up in Nevada. So.
We're not there yet.
Other questions? Yes, comment.
Years ago, the dairy industry was regulated, oversight by a standalone agency, the Dairy Commission. And several years ago, there was consolidation statewide within the agencies. And so the dairy industry was put underneath the oversight of the Department of Agriculture. And Brooke touched on it. You know, it's interesting to see how things work when you're sitting as a board member, and you can understand the inner workings of the agency and how things can benefit not just the consumers, but members of the industry and their families as well. And whenever I've had an opportunity to give an update on our industry, I've been very quick to recognize the Department of Agriculture and the leadership that kind of guides the inspections and all those things that keep us out of trouble. Back in the day, there was a shortage of funds within the industry for inspections, and members of the industry were very much in favor of additional assessments made on products sold to increase the oversight. And so we're grateful for that as a member of the industry, but also as a member of the board too, and in the best interest of the state.
Thank you, Dave. I tried really hard to skip your report, but you got in there anyway.
I was teasing.
And Mr. Chair, I want to update the board on one thing. We had a lot of public comment on it this morning, and I did not want to skip over that. We are working with Bureau of Land Management Carson District. We've asked them to begin a National Environmental Policy Act review of potential areas for fencing on the Virginia range to protect those horses and the motoring public from South Reno south. It is not just there, it's also Carson City, Fernley. This NEPA, National Environmental Protection Policy work that is being done is analyzing that in its entirety. It is not one section of fence along Washoe Lake, it's the entire thing. This is going to be a long, ongoing process. Anybody that's ever worked with the BLM knows first step is to get approval, or number one, figure out where it can go. And then if you can get approval in right of ways. If a right of way is in place, it doesn't mean you build it immediately. You just have to get through that first step. So this is going to take some time evolving. There was a talk about the nearly 6 miles of fence. That 5.77 miles of fence was existing range fence that had been burned out over the last decade, 15 years. And so that fence was reconstructed. That is a BLM range fence. That fence was reconstructed and it comes into Pleasant Valley. We have stopped there at Pleasant Valley. You heard a member of the Reno City Council mention this. We did meet with our partners at Reno, at the city of Reno, and representatives of the city of Reno and staff earlier this spring talked about what they were going to do, what we were going to do. And so as you heard, they do have a project. We thank them for taking that project on that 10 miles of fence that they are trying to build. That will go to Geiger grade. Our side is coming from the south. We're trying to tie it all together. That is what we're doing rather than leave a hole somewhere for animals to come around. We're building all wildlife friendly fence. The Nevada Department of Wildlife has signed off on all of that. We're making sure we don't have any problems there. So where we're going to go from Pleasant Valley to Geiger grade is yet to be determined because we're trying to make sure we tie into where the city of Reno is coming from the north. So we are coordinating with them. And this, again, is going to be a long, ongoing process. It's something that had to be started if we were ever going to get forward. And it could be years before it's done, but we have to get started at some point. And that first step was the permitting phase. And I keep looking at you, Tom, because I know you're very familiar with the BLM, how long that can take. So we have initiated that. And we are hopeful in March to have an update for you guys on that NEPA progress at there. So I just wanted you to know that.
Very good.
The 5.77 miles, was that paid for by BLM?
No, that was paid for out of these funds that were USDA grant funds through APHIS WS in order to do that for this program. And again, we're tying that piece in so we Try to keep those horses off of that busy corridor, old 395 Pleasant Valley, and down into the first part of Washoe Valley.
So whose fence is it?
BLM's fence, it's a BLM range fence.
Oh, yeah.
And that is already on, that there was no need to need it. Those were existing. There's a lot of existing fences there that are in disrepair. If we could use this money to repair that fence for
A lot
BLM,
easier.
it's a lot easier. So that's what we started with.
Other questions? Very good. We'll move on to division reports, Division of Administrative Services. Kathy?
I'm Kathy Duncan, the Administrator of Administrative Services. Some pending matters of significance. First, we have the continuing work with the Governor's Office, our Governor's Finance Office, and Legislative Council Bureau on our 26-27 biennium NDA budget. Partnership activities, the NDA partnered with Made in Nevada to hold a Made in Nevada Connections event for Southern Nevada food, agriculture, and beverage producers on August 20th. Over 65 industry members were represented. Moving into some program updates. So industry development and marketing. Multiple trade mission efforts happened with our senior trade officer, Dylan Davidson. And on July 30th, Dylan testified at the U.S. Senate subcommittee hearing on establishing rural businesses to grow at home while competing abroad and how that affects Nevada food and agriculture producers. The 24-25 Women's Farm to Food cohort kicked off its 4th year with 13 women food producers or entrepreneurs in Nevada on November 14th. And then the NDA held its Governor's Conference on Agriculture on November 20th to discuss the economic outlook of Nevada food and agriculture business resources opportunities and how the agency implements licensing fees and permitting. That was our first one since 2018 as well. Moving into communications, as you can see on your board report, the communications team, several news releases and stories. Public record request, staff fielded 62 public record requests to date in 2024, of which 48 are currently completed. Our agriculture literacy assisted with the implementation of the Nevada FFA Green Hand Conference hosted in Mesquite in October, and over 150 students attended the conference. Moving into general administrative services. So looking back in June, we did have our successful close of our FY24 budget accounts. I am happy to report that our fiscal staff is 100% staff. First time in like 5 years, so. And then I am gonna review every meeting a budget account, and I'm gonna start with measurement standards, our budget account 4551.
You're gonna take the problem child right off the bat.
No surprise.
There's all that red ink on it.
All right, so measurement standards, budget account 4551, they are majority funded by fee. So as you can see, they're like 99.43 funded by fees and 0.4 of other. So some of those fees that they are funded by are their registered service agent fees, device testing fees, metrology fees, public weighmaster fee licenses, petroleum inspection fees, and a transfer from the DMV. That transfer from the DMV is for smog testing, so it's agriculture's portion of smog testing. All right, looking at their revenue and how it, so balance forward from, as you can see, we have 22 actuals, 23 and 24, and then their 2025 budget. So as you can see from the previous year, everything we balanced forward, and then their actuals of revenue that has been brought in, and then what we expect to bring in 2025. And then this is their expenditures. So I have 2022 through 24 actuals as well, and then everything that we have currently budgeted. So their budget account is my favorite, and I'm lucky to have it because it's probably the easiest.
Wow.
You and me both.
So as you can see, just looking back at expenditures and then what our budget is, you can see they do very well at keeping us in the green. So we appreciate you. And then some of these budget accounts, the transfer to administration. So those are cost allocations that they help fund our administrative services budget account. So it's how we do business is through all of the other divisions. So we definitely could not do our work without animal division, plant, food and nutrition, and measurement standards. Thanks, guys. And that's all I have.
Very good, thank you. Questions for Kathy? Okay, we'll move on to animal industry.
Okay, Chad Stanovich, Administrator for the Animal Industries. You guys have this, I'm gonna hit the highlights. If you guys have any questions afterwards, if I've missed anything, please let me know. I was gonna touch on 571 real quick. I know the director emailed all the board members the updated version before the September meeting. All new board members, I think he recently emailed those to you, so you guys can go look at them, question them. I'm gonna get into the ADT, the tags, all of that. I did want to point out that with our animal disease traceability activities and our animal health national surveillance, we did take portion of that money and purchase tags for industry because we knew we were short on tags. We're trying to purchase tags. We're trying to get as many tags out as we can. I'll touch back on the ADT and tags here in just a minute. I'm going to go to livestock enforcement. These guys, you can see all the stuff they're doing. They're always doing a lot with enforcement. They're helping us out with the brand inspections, helping the brand inspectors out. We've been short-handed. We did recently just fill 2 positions that will be starting January 6th. So it'll be nice to have two more on board. Brand inspection, livestock identification. You can see all the numbers these guys have been doing since May 3rd. They're doing a lot of inspections. One thing I want to point out, we put all this together May 3rd. Just in the last month, they've brand inspected over almost 49,000 animals. It's a huge number. They're 35,000 miles in travel. So they're busy. We're doing everything we can to get these producers, their animals inspected. And so I've been very pleased with them. They're doing a very good job. Our predatory animal and rodent control. These guys are behind the scenes protecting our livestock. They're very much appreciated. We've been a little short there too. We did just fill the last position that's open. They will also be starting January 6th. Veterinary medical services. The director touched on a lot of it. I'm just gonna fill in a few spots there. We're excited about the new this new state vet. It's gonna be helpful. I'll go ahead and touch on the ADT rule that came into effect. It was in May. Every meeting, we've been trying to put it out there, what needs to change, what you need to do to get tags. And as I said before to the beef sector, there's no change. There's a change in how you're gonna get your tags and what tag it is going in, that it's going into the animal. But, the most significant impact has to be visually and electronically readable. How we are distributing them. For the years past with EID tags, we've been with a lot of people, the producers on programs with Superior Western, when they're selling their calves, they've been applying for these EID tags, and we have been giving them to them through grants and USDA tags. The way every producer, and I'm going to go into a little bit of depth, that even if you guys, if it doesn't relate, but every producer needs a premise ID through the USDA. And everyone that's been on the programs, they were comfortable with this. They knew about it and they had their premise. Now that November 5th came, we found out that there are a lot of producers that just do not have premise IDs. And so we have really tried to streamline this with USDA to producers. We put a form on our website. They can go fill out all the information, hit submit. It goes to me and 3 other employees. We get it to the USDA. USDA can assign a premise for each location on each ranch or individual ranch. Then after they have their premise ID, they can apply for tags. Right now, we have orange tags, we have white tags. The orange tags are for the brucellosis vaccination. We are not distributing them. We distribute them to the veterinarian, but we're going off what the producer needs. So right now, the producer we're trying to make it where the veterinarians do not have to work so hard at figuring out how many tags each of their producers need. So we are having each producer come to us, as long as we know their veterinarian. We're looking at all the details and we are giving them their tags. The white tags, we are holding them for just the veterinarians for regulatory work. So they can request the tags the same way the producers are requesting the tags, and we will get them. Sale barns, we are giving the orange tags to the veterinarians that are working the sale barns. Right now, Dr. Govichia did say that we got an additional 20,000 tags. And I hope that will get us through the year. So we are giving those tags to those veterinarians at small doses. They can request them weekly, bi-weekly, monthly, however many they need. So if there's any other questions on the tags, I'm happy to answer those. And so it's really hard when you got these guys laughing at you.
Well, we just find it funny that, and Dr. Shank will get this, we have the brucellosis tags. We worked really hard to get those.
Yeah.
But now we don't have the juice to go with the brucellosis tags, so I don't know what.
Well, and one thing on that too, I'm pretty adamant that we need to follow the regs and not sell non-vaccinated heifers. This is one situation where I feel we need to, and we will monitor it and make sure they are getting vaccinated after change ownership.
I won't say.
Okay, with JJ did his update on H5N1. It's but he did that. I'm gonna there's one bullet point here on positive herds and fence line contacts and the hold orders for trick. The last month and a half, and since May, I have been conducting these epi studies on all positive herds in the state. The last month and a half, we have had an additional 21 hold orders. This stretches out for over 150 miles. Today, I received an additional 8 positive bulls with one producer. So we are on a record pace to surpass the last 10 years of the yearly average of bulls that are positive. So we have surpassed that. With all the other vet med, we have ADL. I am going to touch on the ADL right now. So working with our partners regarding the arbovirus, West Nile virus horses, this has been an unusual year because of the positive rates in places of the state that were not positive. So we've had horses in northern counties that typically have not had West Nile virus, and they do now have. Not a huge number, but there are horses positive. On the Animal Disease Lab, Sparks been going great. They're doing a really good job. Industry had asked all last year for us to open up the Alpha Lab again. We were successful in that. We have a really great microbiologist there. We're testing for Coggins and trick testing. I want to thank all the veterinarians that are gone back to using the Alpha Lab. It's great, and I hope more of them come. Dairy. You guys know the importance. You guys heard a lot about the importance of what NBA does for the dairies. We have a lot of inspectors, and right now with what's going on, happy to have them there. Are fully staffed. I think the last one will be on board right quickly. So I'm excited about that. And that's all I have. Is there any questions?
Questions for Chair?
I want to add one thing, and I forgot to bring it up. It came up this week. regards to the USDA and their tag allocations, I was told by the ADT coordinator nationally to expect roughly a third of what we got last year. So we are going to have to get very creative on how we're going to purchase the rest of those tags if we do not get Congress to move and give us a plus up to APHIS to purchase more tags. That is a little subtle way of telling you guys to maybe contact people in Washington, DC, that we need a plus up for APHIS in order to purchase those tags, or we will not have enough EID tags next fall. And veterinarians will be required to purchase those on their own and pass those on to the producer. And also,
Other questions? Okay, thank you. Moving on to the Division of Food and Nutrition, Patricia.
Thank you. Well, I'm also going to follow the leader, Chad, and I'm going to just hit the highlights for you since you have everything in front of you and add a couple of updates to my report. So moving down to under program updates to food distribution to the TFAP program, which is the Emergency Food Assistance Program. We have a grant right now that's a regional resiliency grant that we got from USDA that is about a little over $600,000 that we're currently working on getting some awards out for. To our surprise and happiness, we also were able to get additional funds that are referred to as CCC, which is Commodity Credit Corporation, from a branch of USDA to the tune of about $537,000. Those will be sub-granted directly to all of our 3 RDAs across the state, which are in Elko, in Sparks, and in Las Vegas.
tell these guys what an RDA is. We talked.
Sorry, Regional Distributing Agency, I apologize. I know I'm like a super food nerdy, those two, so I apologize, I'll keep that in mind, thank you. Over to the next page, Senior Nutrition and Wellness Program, formerly CSFP, which is a commodity supplemental food program, which is one that Brooke is a regional distributing agency for, which is our flagship elderly program. We are also getting CCC funds for the very first time ever. I knew you'd like this good news. And that is to the tune of about $256,000. And that will be passed through directly to our RDAs. And you will be able to purchase food with these funds in addition.
Fresh veggies and fruits, yay, I love this, okay.
Yes, I wanted to share that with you. We've also done really well with our caseload for Senior Nutrition and Wellness Program. As you can see, we're up to 96%, which is a good percentage for us, and we hope it keeps going up. Moving down to food insecurity, we're still working for our 2 rounds of NCFA on those 2 grants. An update on the Elko warehouse at Food Bank of Northern Nevada. They have actually closed escrow. We put here a tentative plan. It officially closed on 11/25/2024. So that will be the infrastructure improvement, the rural food hub is what we're calling that we received state ARPA funding for. And so that is moving forward. They're in the process now of doing renovations. They have some HVAC and roof issues to do, but we're really excited about that Food Bank was able to get that building. That's going to be huge for our food distribution in that area of the state. Did you want to add something to that, JJ? Okay. And then moving over to Home Feeds Nevada. So as you know, we've talked about the fact that we're on kind of our last funding source with Home Feeds Nevada, and that is a federal ARPA fund that is local food purchase assistance. We refer to that as LFPA. We are due to have those funds expire 6/30/2025. We will not last that long. We will use all of those funds far prior to that. We have cut back our producers twice. We're cutting back because we're trying to keep as many producers on the program as possible. For example, our meat proteins are very, very expensive. So we're trying to kind of cut back on quantities to keep some of the others going with some of our winter producers that are doing things like winter squash. A little bit of good news, on October 1st, we received an email that USDA had set aside an additional $500 million to do another round of LFPA funding. and then they ghosted us. So we haven't heard a thing. I did hear from my LFPA contact in the national office that they were supposed to be releasing the RFA this week, the first week in December. It's not over yet. Technically, the week still goes, so we're watching for that. We fully intend to apply for that round of funding. We've had a very successful round with our LFPA. We anticipate getting that additional funding. However, we have no idea how much that will be, if there will be allocation limits for what we can apply for, which there was not last time. But we will keep you posted on that. And hopefully we'll have a very good update for the March meeting. Anything to add? Okay. And then moving on to community nutrition, our child and adult care food program starts at the school year. We are in full force with that, getting applications approved. We also, you heard me talk about an outreach initiative where we received some sub-grant funding from the local State Division of Welfare and Supportive Services. That actually was pretty successful for us. We wound up getting 6 brand new sponsors. That was specifically for child care centers only. So we actually did really well with that funding. And we have learned from DWSS that they are planning to try and get additional funding because they believe the program was successful as well. And rumor has it they're going to try and put some kind of an allocation in their budget to sub-award additional funding potentially to keep that going. School nutrition. So you have the numbers there for school nutrition. One of the highlights I want to just talk a little bit more about is our farm to school. We received a farm to school grant from USDA, and we were really able to stand this program up until we received that grant a couple of years ago. It was really very project based. We had like an event. We funded some school gardens, but we really just couldn't get that program going. And so now we have the opportunity to do that. You've heard me talk about the fact that we have a full-time program coordinator for that. We also took a large portion of that funding, $500,000, and made the decision to pass that through to other sponsors, community organizations, school food authorities, a variety of different organizations. And so we had that grant, that RFA released. We only had about 7 eligibles. We are sub-awarding those 7 eligibles. We've also made the decision that we are going to do a second round with the remaining funding to see if we can get some more projects on board for that funding. And then last but not least, next page. You may not be familiar because we don't talk about it a lot, but we have the Nevada School Wellness Policy. And it is a federal program that focuses on what we consider things to be smart snack compliant, meaning snacks that are sold in schools have to meet the smart snack compliant wellness policy that is at a federal level. And we own that at our state level. And so there was an update to the policy that we did that allows for carbonated calorie-free beverages to be added as a smart snack compliant item, and also looked at some fundraising opportunities for curriculum-based organizations. We made the decision to do a public survey. So we did a survey. I do not recall the number of responses, but I think it was something like 65 responses. And so we're currently working through that feedback, and we're going to be publishing a report on the responses. And it was by and large very positive for the update to our wellness policy. Additional items, the Southern Warehouse that JJ mentioned, in answer to your question for the foods. So in our Southern Warehouse, we run through our warehouse the Senior Nutrition and Wellness Program, which is what Brooke's organization operates. We have 3 regional distributing agencies for that across the state, and she is the one for Southern Nevada. So we run that program through our warehouse, and we also run USDA foods in schools through that warehouse. And that includes the National School Lunch Program, the Child and Adult Care Food Program, and the commodities also for the Summer Food Service Program that we operate on a seasonal basis in the summer. The types of products that we have, a lot of dry products. And actually, if you want that tour in the warehouse, that's all of our dry products. So I can show you those. But cold and frozen products, we have things like dairy, cheese, a lot of proteins. Some of that is processed foods for our schools where we buy in bulk, for example, chicken, at a cheaper price for all of our school food authorities across the state. Isn't that a novel idea? And then we send it off to a producer, and that producer makes chicken nuggets. And then we're able to use more. I know he hates chicken, but look, all the kids love it. So we're able to make chicken nuggets in bulk, and they get to use a smaller portion of their entitlement funding because we're buying in bulk and shipping it across the state. So processed foods for those programs come through that warehouse. Occasionally we have bonus products, like we might get fresh eggs for commodity supplemental food program, things like that. But that's primarily what we do in that warehouse with those cold and frozen foods. And so this is going to be huge for us. We really appreciate our Cowboys leadership on that, because I've been, trying to do something about our contract for a really long time. Never really dreamed that we'd actually have a warehouse with everything. But our warehouse employees sometimes on a daily basis drive over to our vendor warehouse, and we're kind of at their mercy. We don't have any control at all. There's food loss, there's food damages. We now get to have control of that, and we anticipate those going down. It's also so much more efficient because they're not going to have to waste their time going over there sometimes twice a day, because if for some reason they don't have a delivery, they have to take that back over there and drop it back again. So it's really going to be exciting. We have a projected move-in date around January 2025 right now. A couple of other positive items. We received federal funds to purchase a brand new semi-tractor trailer. Ours are very old. The oldest is actually 1993. It's true. We have quite a few repairs, a lot of maintenance. And so with the support of our leadership and our wonderful fiscal administrator, it is actually getting ready to go out to bid, as with state purchasing right now. We're going to be submitting it out for bid to get that thing purchased. So we're really excited about that. It will be a 53-foot refrigerated trailer in addition to a semi-day cab. So we're excited about that. Last but not least, we have federal technology grant funding that we will be using to purchase a much needed learning management system that we'll use both for our internal staff and all of our sponsors, our program sponsors as well. Training is really critical to our program because we operate 13 of the 15 USDA feeding and nutrition programs. We have a lot of federal training requirements, not just for our staff, but we also have a certain number of hours of professional standards training that we're required to provide to school food authorities, for example. And we have training for every single one of our programs. And it's something that's been a challenge. It's a struggle. It is a manual process for us in some cases. So we really wanted to do something about that, and we've gotten some good technology funding from USDA over the last 2 or 3 years, and that's one of the things that we'll be spending it on. We're really excited about that. We will have an update of that after the first of the year during the March meeting, because we plan to purchase them. So that's it for me.
Very good. Thank you. Questions for Patricia? Thank you. Measurement standards.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. My name is Bill Strajewski. I am the administrator for Measurement Standards. And since we have a number of new board members, and because the other divisions have very clear names as to what they do and what they deal with, I thought I'd take a second for just a high-level overview of the programs within Measurement Standards. There are 3. The one that you would be most familiar with would be the Weights and Measures program. There are more than 50,000 licensed devices throughout the state, including scales that range from the smallest cannabis and, say, jewelry scales all the way up to highway truck scales. We take care of certifying those devices, as well as liquid devices, pumps at gas stations, LPG pumps, heating oil, etc. So in terms of gas stations, the second program under our auspices is petroleum technology. So when inspectors are inspecting the dispensers at a gas station, they're making sure that the volumes are correct, that when the meter says 5 gallons has been dispensed, 5 gallons has been dispensed. They check pricing for accuracy, and they also draw each product available for sale at that station, brought back to one of the 2 labs, either Sparks or Las Vegas, and checked for compliance to national standards. It is just a snapshot, but we found that, that works really well in terms of compliance throughout the state. If a scale or and I'm going to tie in a little bit of what Kathy spoke about in terms of our funding as well. If a scale or a gas pump is out of compliance, we do not do those repairs. There are registered service agents who are hired by, usually have a contract with the device owner to come in and make repairs and bring that device back into compliance. If they need to have new scales or new gas pumps installed, the RSAs will take care of that and then call us and we'll just check their work and then they get on with commerce. Public way map, so fees for licensing RSAs is one of our funding sources. Still on petroleum, the transfer from DMV, while there was a petroleum inspection fee, there's an assessment of 0.0055 cents per gallon on imported fuels. There may or may not be a bill or at least a bill draft request brought by industry to adjust the rule for the petroleum inspection fee in this session. I have not seen it yet, but I've had limited talks with industry about that. The direct transfer from DMV, as Kathy said, has to do with the smog inspections, and that is the major funding driver for the petroleum program. It also helps with our activities, which kind of come and go between our division and Washoe County Health Air Quality and Clark County Air Quality. And then, so we make sure that devices are within compliance or they're not, and the RSAs make sure that they come into. Well, how do we do that? The third program is the metrology program, and the metrologists hold state standards that are traceable to national or global standards for mass or volume, and the metrologists check the weight kits and the volumetric test measures that our inspectors use and that the RSAs use in their work. So it's traceable all the way back. And so it's known that when either we do our work or the RSAs do theirs, that those are trusting, traceable results. All right. Lesson over. So, and I'm just going to hit a few high points as others have. Livestock inspections have been completed, and the 2023 year was quite challenging. I'd like to say that 2024 did go better. We made some changes in terms of communicating with industry, and industry was receptive, and I think it was successful for both them and for us. I will say that we also had a couple things in our favor. The winner of 2023-24 was not quite the winner of 22-23. We were able to get out onto the roads and to the ranches earlier this year, which helped. Also last year, well, our inspection equipment breaks. It just breaks. It takes a lot of abuse on the back roads of the state. Last year, things broke early, they broke often, they broke at the same time. We had some better luck with that this year as well. We're talking internally about further improvements that we can make in anticipation of the 2025 season. So hopefully this is just the first of more positive steps. In terms of communication, we also, sort of use that same model or a similar model with our device invoicing. We gave our device owners a heads up that the July 1st annual invoicing is going to be coming. Typically, we have, all I can say is a not insignificant number of licenses that are either paid late or the invoices are returned because of bad contact information. I'm afraid we haven't been tracking those with hard numbers up until this year, but we sent out reminder letters in the spring and both hard copy and digitally, and saying, hey, is this contact information correct? If not, let's get it sorted out. And we have found that our number of late payments has been reduced by a substantial amount, and we've had many, many fewer returned invoices. So we're farther along than we usually are as well. In your board report, at the time that I submitted it, we still had a bill draft request. I am pleased to say that the BDR has been accepted and is now a bill. Schoolhouse Rock and all that. It is now, I'm sorry. It is now Assembly Bill 29 for the upcoming session. I thought about providing the link to that, but me just reading it out is going to be way too hard. We can talk afterwards, or you can contact me directly. I'd be happy to send you the link to that. A section of NRS 590, which deals with petroleum products, has a section on labeling and signage for the industry. Well, that was put into the NRS in 1951 and stands essentially unchanged since then. Words have been changed, but it hasn't been modernized. It hasn't been, I don't think it's ever been reviewed, really, not hard enough. And so this will seek to modernize that for many of the things that we take for granted now. Credit payments were in there, but highway signs are not addressed, and digital signs that alternate between different prices and different products, and loyalty programs from stores or convenience stores that have car washes, et cetera. I'm sure that we will have continued discussions during the course of this with industry, but we were having trouble regulating because the rules were so archaic, and industry had a problem understanding what we wanted from them. So, I think largely, both parties are in a common place. So this will be a good positive change and won't have any financial impact on the department at all. So Mackenzie had mentioned California Bill AB. I have X2-1, but it's their naming conventions, right? And and just a couple further comments. Yes, we get the vast majority of our fuel in Nevada out of California, at least 70%. And so if fuel is being held by California refineries, that doesn't help us any. And we have, at least before the bill was signed, the state of Nevada was in team with the state of Arizona. Arizona, I don't believe, imports quite that percentage as Nevada. It's pretty close though. California is the biggest supplier of fuel to Arizona as well, and they're uncomfortable with the situation as well. Last month, a refiner in Southern California announced that they were scheduling to close, and at least perception is that at least part of that is because of the passage of this bill. If you're not familiar with refineries they have a lot of tanks, but those tanks are all doing things, and they don't have room to store extra fuel. So it will be interesting to see whether this is the first of more, or what happens going forward. I'm sure updates on that Mackenzie and myself will provide. Just to satisfy myself, in the metrology program update, I had given the total items calibrated for fiscal year 2024. I need to correct that. I hadn't updated it. In the correct, I had that number is shown as 1,450. It should actually be 1,801. So I want to give my lab folks proper credit for all the work that they did. Not surprisingly, as fuel prices rise, we see an increase in complaints from the public. We take complaints very seriously and give them precedence when they come in. Oftentimes they are sometimes they're for the quality of the fuel, sometimes they are for the performance of the dispensers. So the tail end of the summer, we were seeing a great number of those, higher than usual. Those are starting to tail off as prices are coming down. Many of them were, dispensers are also mechanical devices. They sit in the sun and cook, and they sit in the cold and they freeze. So they can be valid, and those happen. We stop sales of those and until they're repaired. So I just want to make a comment on the level of complaints that we've been seeing. For the weights and measures program, we have spent the last year and a little bit more trying to get some replacement trucks. Those are trickling in. Surprisingly, the auto companies are not as excited to give us the trucks as we are to receive them. But they're finally getting to us. A lot of times they need specialty work done on their beds, and so some of that is still being done, but we are rolling those into service now. The last couple should be coming, and we too are, when we do highway scales, we need a lot of weight and a heavy truck and a big crane, and we have a replacement for our heavy truck down here in the Las Vegas office, replacing one, I believe, from 96 or 97. And we're hoping that we get that in the first quarter of 2025. And I think I will just stop there. We are nearly fully staffed, and for as many highway miles as the inspectors put on, that is a good thing. If you have any questions for me, I'm happy to answer them.
Questions for Bill? Okay, sounds good. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Plant health and compliance. Megan?
Hi. Good afternoon, everyone. I'll start by welcoming our two new board members and let you guys know if you have interest in meeting with Ray or I to talk about either specific industry needs or questions or concerns. Please feel free to reach out. I'm happy to meet you. I'm in Elko, and I want to introduce Ray. Ray is our new Deputy Administrator for Plant Health and Compliance. He's based here in Las Vegas. It's been a great addition to the leadership of the team, and I think we're moving in a great direction and really helpful for his support and the direction we're moving within the department. Again, you have a lengthy 7-page report in front of you, so I'm not going to go over everything, but I do want to provide some highlights. The division is working on 3 changes to NAC. We did not receive full drafts from the Legislative Council Bureau on 2 of them, so we're postponing those until after our this upcoming legislative session. 1 is moving forward. That is the proposed changes to NAC 586 involving the increasing of annual registration fee for pesticides. We are holding a workshop next week, December 12th from 9 to 12. The workshop will be hybrid, so you'll be able to either come to the Elko, Sparks, or Las Vegas office or join via Teams. If you want more information about that, I'm happy to give it to you. The other 2 are related to our hemp program and our PCO program, and those workshops and hearings will be upcoming. The department and division continue to engage in NEPA policy review that has drastically reduced over the summer activities, but we are continually engaged not only in specific Nevada projects, but in West-wide solar and greater sage grouse. I don't know if you want to provide any other additional comments.
Well, on those NEPA documents, Megan and staff and Skyler really stepped up our representative on the tech team. I'm just having a brain fart or think my path. So we actually participated in the governor's consistency review in both of those, and just Wednesday we submitted our comments for the governor consistency review on the greater sage grouse EIS. So we still have quite a few concerns about what that looks like. And I'll just tell you, and I think Megan will agree, it's amazing. We have these 2 programs, solar and sage grouse, and they are in direct competition with each other. How one agency could put 2 products out that will never mesh is beyond me, but our comments are very in-depth, and they were acknowledged by the governor's office. He received them, and they're thankful. So we have 1 month to go. Those are due to the BLM on the 7th of January, that final document. So we'll continue to work the next 30 days to get those finalized for the governor.
Yep. Let's jump into some specific program updates. Our plant pathology program has worked through quite a few different surveys. This year they received 1,800 samples and are working through analysis of those. There were 2 fungal organisms found here in Southern Nevada related to the California puffer tree. The allium inspections concluded, and these are for our garlic fields. We found 2 fields this year for quarantine for white rot, and those are currently under quarantine. We have our seed certification program, also reviews and samples crops for restricted disease occurrences. 6 of those crops have been inspected without any positive findings. We're in the middle of our winter potato grow out, so I do not have the report out on those. Our native seed program received an additional funding, $320,000, and since this work report we put together received another $240,000, or will be, for the contract grow out program that we have under the U.S. Department of Interior's burn area emergency response grant. That contract, currently we have 1 grow out. We are working through the insurance program that you have to have a contract within the state of Nevada. And we're working through those hiccups, so we'll hopefully have another 2 contract grow outs. And we currently have 5 producers in the Foundation Seed Program, which is a free seed donation to growers growing out 7 different species. Our sagebrush ecosystem program has been active, as the director mentioned. Our new member on the set has been working very diligently with producers to get credit projects and management plans together. However, there is, as was mentioned, quite a few developments, not only from the mineral perspective, but from solar and wind. So there is a high need for credit. So if anybody is interested in learning more about the credit program, I'm happy to give you Skylar's information and we can go into detail related to that. And our chemistry lab, well, I should say in all of our labs have now entered into the laboratory information system, which has been an ongoing project that our IT team has been leading. So all of our labs are now entered into the LIMS system, and this will help our internal processes for increased accountability, reporting, and standardization of some of those sorts of things. So we're looking forward to full implementation. Some have been in the system longer than others, and I can report out on more specifics related to those. You can see the types of programs that have been analyzed within our chemistry program. In our crops program, we currently have letters of intent and requests for letters of intent related to our new funding for specialty crop block grants for $268,000. A press release came out today. If you're interested in learning more about that, I'm happy to provide that. We are actively working in our export and shipping program. The onion shipping point inspection season began at the end of August, and we've seen an increase in onion exports this year, up 158,000 pounds from last year. I also want to talk about in our crops program, and this kind of touches a little bit on the animal disease correlation, but the high path avian influenza has impacted egg laying facilities across the United States. And if you have questions specific to that, I will direct them to the director. But several sessions ago, there was legislation passed to only sell cage-free eggs in the state of Nevada because of the high path avian influenza and the depopulations that have occurred at the different facilities. The access to cage-free eggs has been severely impacted. And so distribution, you may see impacts of either prices of eggs or availability of cage-free eggs within Nevada. And several other states have those. And so the facilities that are currently still producing are trying to distribute evenly across the United States. So depending on how distributors work, the director has been in contact with other departments as well as the governor's office related to how we can address this to ensure that we have availability of protein and eggs for our customers.
Yeah, so just a little bit on that, so everybody remembers, that a few legislative sessions ago, that bill passed that they had to be cage-free. Anything over 3,000 birds. Well, if you have under 3,000 birds, you're not producing a lot of eggs anyway. So some other Western states did that via rule, not statute, and they have suspended their rules. While there's a shortage of eggs, we don't have that ability. I do not have that authority to suspend a statute, but we are looking and working to see if there is something we can do for a temporary reprieve, so we do not see a shortage. As updated, but it won't be an agency action. It'll have to be something else because we don't have the authority.
And that tends to be seasonal. And obviously when they depopulate, getting birds to mature age to be able to lay eggs is quite a cycle. And so there will definitely be waves of impacts related to that. But we are trying to work with our partners as much as possible. Also within our crops division is our phytosanitary inspections. Those are also up this year. And as we see our export markets increase. Hemp has seen sort of a stability. We haven't seen either a strong increase or decrease over the past couple of years. We are working with USDA, like I said, to update our THC level definition in NAC, but we'll have to wait until after the legislative session. Our noxious weed program has been coordinating with our conservation districts related to EDRR, or early detection and rapid response sub-grant activities. That's been a priority for our noxious weed program. We have been setting our team has been setting regional meetings related to early detection and rapid response and really allowing those areas to self-identify those species that they want to work on. We've received 493 new reports and are working on some enforcement related to those. We have our NDOT program has continued, and staff member has continued to coordinate with Nevada Department of Transportation related to weed mitigation for contracts for new. As part of this coordination, we have worked and sent a letter to the Nevada Department of Transportation's leadership in October regarding the infestation of Scotch thistle along the I-80 right-of-way, specifically most prevalent in District 3, and are requesting that they create a management plan for this. We received response earlier this week from NDOT. We have a meeting with the leadership of District 3 next week and hope to have it by January, a management plan regarding the Scotch thistle and other noxious weeds present. It's a high priority as those are corridors for noxious weeds and ensuring that the frequency and level of infestations get addressed. In our entomology program, you can see the survey reports. I'll go extensively into those, but I want to highlight a couple of things. Our board member Lackey talked about Mormon crickets. The department worked on putting together a new reporting form for public submissions for Mormon cricket and grasshopper infestations. That's currently available on the NDA site. We hope that that new form, which will be easier, will hopefully get some better information. We had a post-season meeting with several counties and our state and federal partners of reviewing our 2024 season, and that coordination is ongoing. I do want to highlight, so the Department of Agriculture works under the authority through an MOU with USDA, APHIS, Plant Protection and Quarantine Program. They are the ones that have the authority related to Mormon crickets and grasshopper treatments. They were litigated late last year related to their approach for treatment of Mormon crickets and grasshoppers. That litigation has triggered new NEPA that needs to be done for integrated pest management related to Mormon crickets and grasshoppers. Because of this litigation, the NEPA has not been completed in Nevada yet. They have yet to start that NEPA. The NEPA will need to be signed and operational before any treatments for Mormon crickets and grasshoppers can be completed in 2025. The director has been in contact with USDA related to why this has taken so long, why the new template has not arrived, and knowing that this will probably be litigated and the comment period's extended, that we will probably be into Mormon cricket and grasshopper season before the NEPA is completed. We continue to engage, provide as many resources as we can to our partners, and communicating these with our local entities.
Just to reiterate what she said, so we're very clear, we're already so late in the NEPA process that if they were to start tomorrow, we're not sure we can get a finalized document. If we don't have a finalized document, we can't do survey and treatment work. If we're not doing treatment work, our best hope, and I've said this multiple times and it sucks, our best hope is they don't come out of the ground. And this is a very bad place for us to be in. Our hands are tied. We won't be able to do anything on public land. And that's where we operate. We have asked for a $1.5 million plus up west-wide, and that's in the House Appropriations Report language. We're gonna be in a new Congress, so we're gonna have to see if we can get that again. The next time it was approved out of the House, and to let us use it according to label. But again, if we don't have NEPA, they can throw all the money they want at it, we can't put it on the ground. So I'm anticipating a bad grasshopper and Mormon cricket year, and we will take the brunt of it, because they're gonna think that it's us that's not doing anything, but you as a board need to know that we can't do anything without the our federal partners getting it done.
Yeah, and also to highlight, so BLM also put out, or is putting out new policy related to treatment of Mormon crickets and grasshoppers in sage-grouse habitat. So they are encouraging no treatments in priority sage-grouse habitat and minimal treatments within general habitat. There is some exceptions and some ability for local district offices to be able to make some delineations. That's very vague. We provided comments related to that language and have not seen the final stuff. But say we get a great NEPA document that flies through and we're able to do it, there still will be differences in how we treat moving forward based on sage-grouse habitat. You mentioned things about honeybees, so I wanted to talk a little bit. So the Nevada Department of Agriculture, through our state entomologist, works and provides specimens to the National Honeybee Survey Program, and I'm happy to provide those. All of the National Honeybee testing that has come back is we've received no disease in any of the samples that we have provided. There's some other colony dynamics that were detected, but no disease events, and I'm happy to provide any data related to that and how we engage with the apiaries in Nevada to ensure that we get as much data into that survey program. The National Honeybee Survey Program is really critical, as many of our other external countries are dealing with some huge disease events and other pests that affect hives. And as more and more people are interested in becoming beekeepers, they are importing and our honeybees from other countries that don't necessarily have the same requirements. So it's a challenge. But happy to talk about that or provide any of that information. Our pest control and licensing division continue to work, have completed inspections. And you can see those, the types of inspections and what has been results. We conduct these inspections of the pesticide applicators and licensed companies, our agricultural producers and manufacturers and dealers to ensure that we're using and they are using pesticides in a responsible way throughout the supply chain. We have recently taken away the wood destroying pest inspection report fee. So those inspectors that come in, licensees that come in, will get those forms for free. We're working on trying to make those a little bit more into the 21st century. Right now, they're like the tricolor, you write on one and it transcribes to the other 2 pages. We're working on trying to create an online reporting platform so that people can get those online and report those online, and we will be able to get that in a more searchable database if we get requests related to those.
Questions for Megan? Sure. Thank you, Megan.
Yeah.
Go ahead, JT.
I apologize for not bringing this up sooner. iPath was on my mind. Megan brought up foreign countries and it triggered something in me. New World Screwworm, detection of New World Screwworm in South America. It's been there. We know it's been there. Central America. It was discovered a couple weeks ago in the southern state of Mexico. We have concerns that Mexico was not maybe able to control that and regulate that the way it was needed. Nevada is one of several states that is cooperating with the USDA on this. The Mexican border is closed at this time to the import of cattle. We're working through trying to get dogs and horses and approval for that first. New World Screwworm will infect any kind of a mammal. And so we are concerned, and I'm gonna say that again, any kind of a mammal. So we've closed the border to cows and horses and dogs, but it's for mammals that we are still concerned about. So we're gonna be a while, and maybe another week or two getting the protocol for those cattle to come back across the border. They have to be treated with ivermectin and have to have some inspection stuff. Since that detection, which was crossed from Guatemala, they've actually found a native-born bull calf that was infected in Mexico. So a population of that revolves around the release of sterile flies. The males are sterile, they breed, and eventually the population dies off. I can't make this up. They are actually concerned because the libido of the screw fly that they are releasing is so low that they're not breeding females. So they're asking the United States for help and standing up. You guys come without wearing a So we're trying to help stand up and support the government of Mexico and Central America. More sterile. In a world of screw flies that have a high libido. And I'll leave it at that. I figured we needed a little comic relief. I was actually said on a meeting last week.
So how long do you expect the border to be closed? A week or?
Yeah, it's already been closed one full week. Tom, I expect probably another week. And then we'll maybe start seeing some cattle coming back in. It is a problem. You know, you guys don't realize we receive a lot of Mexican feeder cattle and exhibition cattle. Anybody that's in town this week, they're open them. And so we are concerned, at least now we're not getting into our grazing season. If this was another 3 months, I'd be concerned because we do rely on those coming across that border. I think what we'll do is we'll open that first to Sonora and Chihuahua, probably because those 2 states have their stuff together a little bit better and haven't had the New World Screwworm there. So, but there were, don't quote me on this, but I think 7,000 head between Douglas and Santa Teresa The day we closed the border, we all had some meetings about would you be comfortable with cattle or not? I was comfortable with taking any cattle destined to Nevada because they'd already hit there Thursday. If they'd have done their work, they'd have been across the border on that Friday anyway. But they didn't do the work, so it was Monday. We'd had cattle standing 4 days in pens on the Mexican side of the border that needed to go somewhere. So we ended up sending them back as a nation rather than bringing them, but we couldn't let them stand there when we made a decision. That wasn't humane. So, but it's closed at this point and it should be open in the coming days to.
Okay, very good. Move on to another round of public comment. Do we have any public comment?
We have one here in Sparks. As a reminder, you have 3 minutes. If you could please, you can sit right here. And if you could please state your first and last name and if you're with an organization for the record.
Okay. Hi, my name is Liz Lord. I'm a South Reno resident that is here to address or question whatever I'm doing, commenting. I've never done this before. On the wild horse situation, the feeding sites that we're not being allowed to have the variance is an unrealistic variance, in my opinion. These horses are getting run over. It's a public safety issue. Somebody's gonna get injured. I understand there is money earmarked for these feed sites and it's not being used for that because we don't have any feed sites right now. I don't know what you guys are doing, but if you could please help the horses and the population here, the human population, because relocating the horses is not the answer. I've been a horse owner and lover for years. It's just a tragedy to see this is happening in this state. I'm originally from California. I moved here, one of the reasons I moved here was because of the beautiful wild horses that you can go out and see. You don't have that in a lot of places. So anyway, just concerned about this. Wish you guys could do something about feed sites. And I don't know what else to say. Thank you. Thanks.
If there's any public comment online, please raise your hand. You can go ahead.
Jim DeChambeau. And to make me clear up some of my remarks from earlier, nobody hates these horses. Nobody wants to see them die. We love the horses, but they should be in the appropriate numbers, which for Nevada is 12,811. And if the horses were in the appropriate numbers and the range was healthy, we would not have to feed the horses. There would be no sense to feed. Once you feed the horses, they don't become wild horses, they become pets. And as the Virginia range, for the last 4 years, the numbers have increased from 200 to 400 heads a year by AWHC and WHC's own numbers. And there should only be 100 to 300 head on there. Not even the 500 head that was agreed on with WHC. And they are easy to gather up. A barefoot 6-year-old cowboy on a broomstick horse could round those horses up. And we need to save the health of Nevada's rangelands. I love Nevada. I've lived there all my life. This year, there were only 3 deer tags for the entire Virginia range. 280,000 acres and only 3 deer tags. On the Virginia range, we know there's 3,900 horses. The entire rest of just Washoe County, which is 600,000 acres, has 17 HMAs, horse management areas. Some parts of some are in California, and there are only 1,700 horses on 600,000 acres and 4,000 plus on 280,000 acres. We need to save Nevada. And sorry about my comments earlier. I didn't mean to be disruptive. Thank you.
No further comments here in Sparks, and it looks like there are no comments online.
How about Elko? Further comments? Okay, seeing none.
Yeah, there's nobody left here.
You're still there, Pete. You're what matters.
I have no comments.
Holy cow. Write that down.
Okay, very good. Final roll call. We're missing Brooke here. Are we missing any other board members?
No one is left here in Sparks.
I'm sorry, Sierra, what did you say?
No one has left here in Sparks, and Brooke has joined us online.
Okay, very good. So all members still present? And do I have a motion for adjournment?
Mackenzie, Heather.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. We're adjourned. Thank you all very much.
You guys want to look at, anybody wants to see Patricia's warehouse, we'll do that real quick, or Bill's lab while you're here. And I'm gonna make a phone call with Sierra.